think we're live. I say that almost every show, the same spiel. I gotta come up with a better spill or
Now,
spiel,
I got to
as the
tell
case
you,
may be.
I want to know. I w- I want to know the location of the complaint department. Where do I file a complaint regarding Bossier Watch?
Send it to bossierwatch at gmail.com. Attention, Duke Lowry. Or what's your address? You say it
Well,
like you said
well,
it at several
that,
city council meetings and publicized it. So I should just direct them to your house. Oh, even
yeah,
better,
well,
to make your life even more miserable, I'll direct them to Kara's office, and then you'll catch the blowback from Kara.
well, see, therein lies the problem. I mean, I've got a complaint, I think I need you to, you know, I think I need you to bring up this show announcement. I
Uh
mean,
oh, here we go.
I think you need to show this because if y'all are tuning into the show and you saw, the the announcement of the show and the creation of it, I mean, I've got a complaint, and most people may say, you know, I mean, that shows a lot of skin on that old scalp and that old head. And I mean, look, I've been bald forever. That ain't it. That's not
Right.
it at all. But what I do find egregious is how GQ you made yourself look with all that gray hair. And I mean,
Hey,
come on.
that's how I want to look before I get older. And at the rate we're going with this show, that's not going to be but a few days, and I'm going to look like that.
Well, you made me look like some crazed, insane person. You made yourself look like, I mean, you're fixing to be on Vogue or Cosmopolitan or something.
Hey, you can blame Bubba for this. He is the one. He is responsible for the title of show number 230. This is. I'm going to change the logos and everything. It's no longer Bossier Watch. It's going to be Duke's Crazy Show.
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. Well, what is on tap for tonight? I think you made the show announcement. So, what are we going to talk about?
Well, and it's kind of small type. I apologize for that. But we're starting season number 5. This is starting season number 5. Our first show was October the 6th of 2020. We have been doing a show that long, including Bossier Watch, some Louisiana watches, a couple outdoor news, and all that. We have been doing shows since 2020. We're starting season number 5.
Well, and I see folks are starting to trickle in. We're pushing up there around 100 folks now across all the platforms. Thank you all for being here. Hey, I wanted to tell you all that we are going to talk about Bossier City. How could we not talk about Bossier City on a Bossier Watch show? I mean, it has been entertainment to the nth degree. But we do have a special guest that's actually waiting in the green room. Is going to come on.
Right?
A lot of you, you're getting ready to vote. Some of you have started getting your mail-in ballots, or you're getting ready to early vote. And there's actually a constitutional amendment on the ballot, Rex. And I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. And I think it was the author of the bill that put made or enabled or made this to be a constitutional amendment is going to be on the show here to talk about it, to inform people. And right out of the gate, I'll tell you, I think it's a good bill, and I'm going to be voting for it. But
Hmm.
we want to hear from the horse's mouth and inform as many folks, especially in Northwest Louisiana, about this.
Yeah.
So
Hey, we'll try to be educational where we can and add to the mystique and myth of Duke's Crazy Show. How about that?
yeah, I don't know that I can take credit for all of that. Yeah. Anyway,
All
okay,
right.
but I was said, it said, hey, just go on Duke's Crazy Show, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go to the countdown. Folks, y'all know the drill. Hopefully, Facebook won't do any shenanigans with those stupid notices this week. We'll see. We're going to hit the countdown button. You're definitely going to want to stay tuned because, like Duke said, we've got a quick primer on the constitutional amendment that will be on the ballot. And then we're going to get straight into the craziness of Bossier, which includes an awesome bond commission meeting and whatever else we can come up with to talk about. So I'm going to hit the countdown button. We'll be right back in about 3 minutes. We're going to bring Joe on pretty quick after that and get right into it. Here we go.
Well, the Bossier Council calling a special meeting this afternoon.
3:35.
3:35. Term limits. Yeah, they're going to they're going to fix it at 3:35. It's open to the public. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Duke Lowry's on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker hotline this morning. Duke, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Have y'all had enough coffee yet?
Not yet.
Not quite. Is this
I
more?
need a little Irish in my coffee.
Is this more shenanigans, Duke? What's going on?
You better believe it. But hey, we the Term Limits Coalition, we didn't expect anything else. In fact, we knew when they started this charter commission, we knew what the purpose was, and it was to do exactly what they're doing right now. You've got to go back to last year when we did the first petition, and even before that, the first term of the current mayor and the city council.
Bossier City, the people cry, need a change, we're asking why. Good old boys just laugh and sneer, ignoring voices that we hold dear. Term limits now, it's our demand, but greed and power they've planned. We're rising up, won't back down, time for change
works.
in this old town.
This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Well, I completely, I completely goofed up that intro. I don't know.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't know how Robert and Aaron got on there, but anyway, it doesn't matter. We're back.
That's okay. I like Robert and it's not Robert and Aaron, it's Mike and Aaron.
It's Mike and McCarty, Mike and Aaron. Yes. Shame on.
I'm gonna have to buy Mike dinner now because I have made that mistake myself so many times. But at the same time, we're burnishing our amateur journalist credentials every time we do it.
Every time we do it. All right. Speaking of amateur credentials, let's go ahead and see if I can change screens and get our guest on. And Duke, I'll let you do the honors of introducing him, and we'll just get right into it. So here we go. Let me hit this button, and let's see if it works tonight. And we want all the commentary possible, and if you have questions, let us know in the comments. Here we go. Aha! The video worked.
Well, technology is working from South Louisiana to North Louisiana. Mr. Representative Joe Orgeron. So, Joe Orgeron,
yes,
you're a
sir.
state representative in the Louisiana legislature, and tell the folks, all the Yankees of Louisiana, since we're north of I-10, what part of Louisiana are you from? Where do you hail from?
I represent what's called District 54, which is primarily Lafourche Parish. That's pretty much Lafourche Parish from Highway 90 or the town of Raceland on down all the way through the world-renowned speed trap of Golden Meadow, my hometown, down to Port Fourchon. And then I also get the pleasure of representing the Jewel of Jefferson, and that is the coastal barrier island, Louisiana's only inhabited barrier island of Grand Isle. So Grand Isle, Port Fourchon, and Bayou Lafourche, all the way up to Raceland.
Oh, you're tugging at my heartstrings with Port Fourchon. I got to tell you, I've been down there many, many times catching them bull reds down there. I love it down there. Did you know a guy named Jimi Hendrix retired from Exxon down there?
It sounds familiar, but not personally. No, I do not.
He made great music, but anyway, no, that's not the same Jimi Hendrix.
I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Anyway, so You are. I mean, I heard you on Moon today. You're making all the rounds, and you got some little something that's going to be on the ballot that everybody's going to vote on here coming up. And I already. I'm jaded on it. I agree with it, and I'm going to vote for it. But I think a lot of people probably need to learn about it a little bit.
Well, I never aspired to be a politician, and every time I would see go to the ballot, go to the polls, and see constitutional amendments, I had a default vote no across the board. Crooked state Louisiana politicians doing something to mess up the Constitution, so I had a default no all the time. Now that I'm in there and I actually see the effort that has to be done in order to just get it on the ballot for people to have the choice, that 2/3 vote in the House and 2/3 vote in the Senate, is not a difficult situation. By the way, I got 100% vote in the House and only had 3 out of 40 out of 39 votes in the Senate for this bill. So it's a good amendment. And basically, like you said, I've been hitting the airwaves just to be able to dispel the vote no default and let people know exactly what it is. And all it is something very similar to what we had voted in about 20 years ago, which was a dedication for energy produced offshore. That's not on Louisiana soil, not even in Louisiana state waters. It's energy that's produced off in the outer continental shelf. And of course, 20 years ago, we did oil and gas, and it was done explicitly, spelled out. Oil and gas activity on the outer continental shelf would be dedicated to the Coastal Restoration Fund. And all this does is it rolls in all of the above energy. And it's immaterial whether it's solar, wind, tidal, wave, current, geothermal. Everything, we already got the oil and gas, and this is everything else lumped in. If it's produced offshore, off the coast, then this would allow that any revenue that we would get in the future, because there's a catch right now, there is no current federal regulation, no federal statute or legislation that allows money from offshore wind, solar, tidal to flow to the states just yet. But when they do, then we would be marrying that money with the oil and gas revenues like GOMESA money in order to go to the coast. And of course, why should a new revenue source be dedicated only to the coast? Well, like I said, this is energy produced offshore that is not capable to be done without the vessels, the ports, the people that live on the coastal, on Louisiana's working coast. And without them, this energy wouldn't be made anyway. So that's the justification for why it's dedicated to the coastal region, in order to protect and build up the resiliency for the coastal communities and ports by building levees, barrier islands, marsh creations, all the things in the CPRA toolbox that participate in the master plan for Louisiana. So hopefully that makes sense. That's really all it's doing. It's rolling in all of the above energy into something we've already done.
Yeah, that was going to be my first question is, where the funds will be deposited, or act more specifically, what that fund actually does, who administers the fund, and how is that decided, who is going to do what for coastal protection and restoration? What specifically is that?
The CPRA Trust Fund, Rex, as listed in Constitution Article 7, Section 10.2, states the money in the fund may be appropriated for purposes consistent with the Coastal Protection Plan developed by the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority. No appropriation will be made from the fund inconsistent with the purposes of that plan. Coastal protection, including conservation, coastal restoration, hurricane protection, and infrastructure directly impacted the coastal wetland loss areas, will be used. The infrastructure portion is capped at 10%. That's the only other little caveat.
Bring Joe back up, Rex. So, Joe, is it okay to call you Joe, or are you one of those you want me to get representative?
No, I actually like average Joe, but Joe will be fine. So.
All right. I kind of thought that, but okay. So From most of the people that watch our show, they're North Louisiana, the Yankees of the state, and there's a lot of our people that are on our show. They go down to the Gulf. They understand about the coastal loss. They understand about the fishing industry. They understand about all these things. But so I mean, look, inherently, everybody wants to know, what does it cost me? How does it affect me? If I understood correctly, this primarily is just going to apply to the like the wind and the solar and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not changing anything regarding the ONG stuff. Isn't that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
That's
And
correct. It doesn't take a single dollar away from oil and gas. It doesn't defray from all of our oil and gas activities. It's just as new as we like to see in Port Fourchon. It's not energy transition. It's energy addition. We just all about. We know where the bread and butter's at, and it's just about adding new energies into it. And it's the monies that we hopefully get someday from the federal government from these new energies that'll just be mirrored and married along with the oil and gas. And let me tell you, the fiscal office did some reports, and in best game scenarios, it's about 10-15% of what we get from oil and gas. So it's just to complement what we do through the oil and gas mechanism. But there is another angle why it's important to pass this amendment. If I could go into that.
Sure. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
no, knock yourself
Okay,
out.
now, so let me take you all back. A couple of interviews had asked, well, is there federal legislation right now that allows for federal monies from offshore wind to go to the states? The answer is no. The people who are championing it are Majority Leader Steve Scalise and Senator Bill Cassidy, both from Louisiana. Um, what their game plan is nearly identical to what happened 18, 20 years ago, and that was in Louisiana in 2005. We passed a constitutional amendment for the dedication of the oil and gas revenue. That was done before Mary Landrieu went to Washington to work on GoMesa. She used that election results to go to Washington and basically convince other states to say, look, we really need to open up revenue sharing from federal oil and gas. And look, in Louisiana, our people voted that they will put that money to great use and good use for the coast. So all we're doing is we're fast forwarding 20 years ahead, and we're basically doing the same exact thing, the same game plan that worked then, working now, and that is get the people to dedicate all the alternative and the renewable energies produced offshore to the state to a good purpose of bolstering the coastal communities that help produce that energy. And with that, the promise or the plan is that Cassidy and Scalise will go back to Washington and speak with I'm going to call them the fossil fuel haters of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and basically convince them, look, sign on to our bill. And what we're trying to do in Louisiana what we're trying to do with this bill, the RISE Act and the BREEZE Act, is roll in revenue sharing, just like what we have done for oil and gas from these renewables. Now, the added bonus for us is GoMesa currently has a $500 million cap on it that limits the total amount of money we're able to get in any given calendar year. And in that bill, they're planning on taking off the cap and changing the percentage that the 4 coastal states get from GoMesa, from oil and gas revenue, from 37.5% to 50%. And that will really provide more revenue for us in the future. And I say the future because right now, the Coastal Master Plan and all the things that are happening on the coast, good things to bolster the coast in South Louisiana, is primarily from the BP oil spill money. 2031 is the last check we get. 2032 and on, Louisiana's on its own. There's no more BP oil spill money. So making these changes now, or getting the people of Louisiana to agree, as they did in 2005, to make this dedication, then the BREEZE Act and the RISE Act have a better chance in Washington of getting the changes to basically make those increased revenue changes in oil and gas, as well as rolling in any supplemental from renewables. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that will squirrel away enough money in the near term so that come 2032, basically we have a good little pot to be able to continue to fund the master plan without having to come anywhere near the general fund or anything else that's used for the great state of Louisiana.
All right, so we had a question from one of our commenters, and I think it's a pretty good question. The question is, where do we find the past year's accounting files? In other words, the money that's being squirreled away or has in the past. Um, how do we do where will we find the accounting for that money? Who would we do a public information request to, for example, for that? Do you have any idea?
I would say CPRE would probably be the best ones. It's them that's been managing the master plan at about $1 billion a year, right around there. And of the billion, only about 200 million or 180 million to 200 million have been coming from GOMESA, from the oil and gas portion, and all the rest has been getting pulled out of the BP oil spill fine money.
Joe. Joe, what I find interesting is that a lot of people in Northwest Louisiana don't. I'm not going to say they're dismissive of what the Gulf Coast parishes and the Gulf Coast face, but what I find interesting is how people from and I'm speaking of myself as well too. How they don't understand how linked we are, regardless of whether you live in North Louisiana or whether you live in South Louisiana. And what happens to you affects everyone in Northwest Louisiana. So, as an example, to me, somebody in Northwest Louisiana lives up here in the Pine Woods. They don't hunt ducks. They don't go crab fishing. They don't, that's just not their way of life. They deer hunt, squirrel hunt. That's it. But they're affected whether they realize it or not, because overall, the state of Louisiana, if you don't like your homeowner's insurance, you don't like, some of the costs that we face, in part, some of the reasons that we have a tough time is because we're losing land at an extremely, high rate, and we haven't committed enough resources to try to protect our Gulf Coast. And this is a way that we can do that, in my opinion, and correct me, absolutely stop me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
This is a way that we can do that, and it's not taking a dime out of the pocket of anybody in Northwest Louisiana. This is something that's kind of like an unrealized asset that we could dedicate to fix a problem that's already costing us money across the whole state. Am I right?
Correct. I mean, right. The right now we had, what was the last one? Hurricane Francine, and the questions came from the governor's office on how much money how many homes did not flood because of just the levees that were built in the last 8 to 10 years that have saved houses from flooding, and what would have been the cost of what the state would have had to dish out in order to support restoring those homes, and it's like in the $1 billion just in one small event like Francine, so it's working. It's helping the state save a lot of money. I can promise you that. Every time we build more levees and back marshes, the marshes actually do storm surge attenuation. They knock down the amount of storm surge. They give basically a sponge or a buffer to absorb that storm surge. Louisiana's unique in that we're the only state that Florida, Texas, you could there's places where you could only go in 8 or 10 miles inshore and be at a 50-foot elevation. But whenever you're talking about from Grand Isle, I mean, you got to go almost 100 miles in before you get to a 50-foot elevation. So Louisiana's unique in that. And what it is of course, how the land down here was built, and that is, the real land pretty much stops around Baton Rouge or between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And if it wasn't for the Mississippi River, kind of like a big hose going back and forth over 10,000 years and creating the delta, there would be no land here. So
Well,
That's
and one of the interesting things that most people don't realize about New Orleans is the soil down there is I've heard it referred to as kind of like peat moss a little bit. And the interesting thing is, the more we built up the levees and all that to be able to, live and all that, the more it dries that soil out, and the soil is shrinking. And we all know, New Orleans is below sea level, but that's part of the reason. So the more we expand into the wetlands in that area, the more it dries out, the worse the problem is. So that's an interesting dynamic. I've got another good question. Miss Jerry is full of good questions. You mentioned earlier that the BP money would be cutting off, I think you said, what, 2031,
31.
2032? Okay. She's
2031 is the last year. 2032, we're on our own.
okay. So she's asking, do you know how much BP money is left to spend approximately, or when do those checks cut off? Any idea of roundabout figure,
Oof.
maybe?
I don't have. I mean, somebody gave me a whole bunch of numbers here, to have talking points, but I don't think
Right.
that one's in here. But I would say though that we've been spending about 800 million or sub. Like I said, we've been spending $1 billion a year on the master plan. I think this year is like the max we ever do, and it peaked out at like 1 point something billion, but it's going to be going back down. And so if we got 8 years left in the hopper, it's probably maybe like $2 or $3 billion left to spread over those 8 years by that amount, I would think.
Okay. Well, we won't hold you to it. I figured you probably didn't know that off the top of your head, but just so we could have a roundabout amount for Miss Jerry's question there. So,
Well, a lot of people, Joe, and I want to talk. I want to, and I hate to kind of say it this way. We're talking about this renewable energy stuff and a source of money
Right?
that's coming. I mean, and maybe for a lot of folks that are watching this that aren't political and they don't know how the sausage is made, you know, green they hear the green energy thing and all this stuff and carbon capture and all these different things, and is it really going to be that big of a deal down there in the Gulf Coast with some of these renewable energy type things that it's going to produce enough money to fix the problems down there? I don't think it will be.
No,
um
I think we're relying on that secondary feature of us agreeing to roll in the renewables into the cost share model, the federal cost share model. And basically the thing that I'm counting on is the changes to the GOMESA oil and gas revenue, the removing of the cap and the changing of the 37.5 to 50% of the royalties that come in to the US Treasury. That's the real thing. But renewables in Louisiana are completely different than California, or I know it doesn't sound right, than the East Coast. But in those cases, you have huge population densities right on the coast, all right, and they have higher electrical prices, and they're actually using those offshore wind and things, those renewable sources, which I as a physicist know is an energy sparse. I like energy dense sources. I like oil and gas. I like
Whoa,
nuclear.
whoa,
I like
whoa, hold up. You just said you're a physicist?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Y-
so
You
I
may
understand energy dense.
you may be too high qualified to be on this show.
No, I don't think so.
I
I think
apparently
I'm
did.
not in the right place, man.
I don't know that I vetted you
Look,
correctly.
the story I see is up on the East Coast and on the West Coast, they're happy to put a sign in their yard that says "My home's powered by green energy." In Louisiana, it's not going to happen, because if it does, it's going to have an asterisk that says, "And I pay 3 times more than my neighbor." So it's really not about renewables in Louisiana. Are all about the industry, the high temperature industrial manufacturing that we have in Baytown, in Houston, but mainly for us along the river from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. So you got a couple of little companies now like DuPont, Dow, Oxy, BASF, Valero, ExxonMobil refining, Shell refining, and they make tremendous amounts of what we call precursor products that go into other products that go all over the world. And those corporations, in order for them, like Dow, for instance, I learned that Dow big international company. 80% of everything they produce and export is made in the state of Louisiana. And of
Wow.
all those products, a lot of them become the plastics that go into products that go to the European market. And the Europeans did this crazy carbon tax. So they're looking at anything that comes in, what's the carbon footprint of it? And if it's all created with fossil fuel energy to make it, then you got to pay a higher tax. So it's really the companies, the petrochemical refining companies on the river that are really asking and begging, like Entergy, man. Whenever we buy electricity from you, it's like 6% renewable. Got a couple of solar farms over here. Can you just dial it up to 8%, maybe 10% at most, just to keep us globally competitive? So I look at it as I rather the energy dense sources, but I understand right now with the hand that we're being dealt, the current administration, the IRA that I wouldn't have supported, but it's there and it's in place. So you play the hand that you're dealt, and in this particular hand, Louisiana is prime to be able to do certain things like the carbon sequestration and making blue hydrogen and stuff like that, and providing these industries what they need and making more jobs for Louisianians. And there's one other fact that just came about, and pre-COVID, post-COVID, the number of people that used to work in the offshore energy, the upstream market, and the people that are in the refining market, they've crossed. They've actually they've one's taken over the other. The amount of people is about the same, but they flip flop. So there's more. There used to be more people working in the upstream offshore hydrocarbon harvesting industry and fewer in refining, and now it's the other way around. So it's So it's that was one of the economists that came present at the Capitol on that the other day. And I just said, back up to that slide. I got to see that again, because that offshore energy infrastructure industry. And there was most of the people in my district don't work for an oil company. They work for a company that helps support the offshore oil and gas industry for the most part. And to them, I tell them, the job parity is the same, man, for most of us. Whether you're a crane operator in Fouchon or a dock, work on the dock or drive a truck, you're just hauling stuff to go and build stuff offshore. So it's all the same, whether you're reaching down for hydrocarbons or reaching up for air pressure. The check's going to be the same in the mail,
Well, in conclusion, I mean, on the constitutional amendment that all of you watching, you're going to be voting on, and inextricably, sorry, my English, amateur journalist. I mean, we are linked to the Gulf Coast, and we're losing our Gulf Coast. And there's not, bottom line is there's not enough resources. I was on the governor's transition committee in the agriculture. I mean, this was a subject of discussion at length in there. I mean, Secretary Strain, there was a lot of people in there, a lot of good ideas. There's not enough money to completely fix this thing. There's not any opportunity, in my humble opinion, that we have to try to address this. It doesn't just go to help the people on the Gulf Coast or the South Louisiana. It goes to help our state as a whole. And I highly recommend, that people, my opinion is to support it. I'm totally in favor of that. But, kind of turning the discussion a little bit, Joe, I've got some, and this is kind of, it's related, but it's a little different. I've got some friends that are in the commercial fishing industry, and I understand, when you start talking about diversions and you start talking about, and Rex, you've got a post up, and I think Joe has participated in some habitat type, reconstructions type stuff. This was most recently on your Facebook page. You guys had, you participated in something. Y'all were researching some newly rebuilt habitat down there on the Gulf Coast, and I'm probably butchering it to heck and back. Maybe you can explain what's going on here a little more.
No. We're standing on some of Louisiana's newest lands right there, outside of Buras, on the east side of the Mississippi River, a place called Neptune Pass, where the river's busted open itself, and basically all the river sediment is settling in the marsh, and we're standing on dry land, and there are 40-foot tall willow trees that are only about 5 or 6 years old since that cut started. And I mean, it's just great to see how the Mississippi River, how Mother Nature can really build up land and trees. And that's what I need on the other side. I need that on the east side between Bayou Lafourche and the Mississippi River in the Barataria Basin. And that's why I'm a huge proponent of the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Project. And I understand the concerns about the fisheries, especially the oyster fishermen who like to be able to have open water bottoms and all to be able to grow more oysters in saltier water. But I think it's important that we reconnect the estuary, the Barataria estuary, one of the most productive estuaries in the nation, at the same time as being one of the most rapidly eroding estuaries. So I feel it's important to reconnect it. And the analogy I use, Duke, is let me put a tourniquet on your thigh, all right, and I'll put it real tight up by your groin there. We'll watch your foot turn blue, and you're like, okay, Joe, I think it's time to take the tourniquet off. And I'm like, no. I got a friend. He's a part-time commercial fisherman, but he also does prosthetic feet. So whenever it gangrenes, we're just going to chop that thing off and get you all squared away. Not a problem. And you're like, don't you think just maybe taking off the tourniquet and letting the blood flow back into that extremity will fix it? So to me, that's the analogy I see with diversions. We could do the land bridges, we could do the pump and dump where they build these terraces and man-made straight line events and stuff, features, but it's got to be complemented with Mother Nature putting back what you see there behind us where we're standing on that fresh water with that sediment that comes from Nebraska and Kansas, just like it has for 30,000 years, and basically at least in the last 10,000 years, building up the delta that we all live on, that we call Sportsman's Paradise down here. So anyway, that's what, to me, that's what the constitutional amendment helps move forward, is that reconnecting the estuary to the river, to the estuary, reconnecting that lifeline, that bloodline, and rejiggering it back the way Mother Nature wants it to be.
Yeah, I like that idea much better than having the Corps attempt to do it, or like you said, man-made. Definitely.
So what was this thing about a planning in West Grand Terre? What was that?
That's just our Restorer Retreat, the nonprofit that Miss Polly and I work for. That we went out to West Grand Terre, and they had redone the island. They had put some rocks around it, and then Ida came and basically kind of flattened it out a little bit, and in the process, Duke and Rex gave it some fantastic little features, I use the word tranoses, and people, sometimes got to ask me what tranoses, but I think you know what they are, right? Little cuts and little
right.
fingerling, shallow, like 2 or 3, 4 inches, and you go on the backside of this island, and all these little estuarial fingers have shrimp and you could see them, the minnows, you could see the fish trying to get into shallow water to get them, and the scientists from CPRA said, well, all of this is going to be washed away by the time winter comes, because the cold fronts will come and move all this bare sand around. So me and Miss Polly said, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go in there. We're going to bring 35 to 40 volunteers, 8,000 plants in. And this past weekend, we went in there and we planted 8,000 plants all around all these little fingerling cuts in order to try to hold the nature that's there now. To preserve it and continue to make, well, I'd say a nice little honey hole in the future for me to get in there and fish.
All right, so one more quick question. Miss Jerry again is full of good questions in the comments. She says if we don't pass this amendment, what are the downsides?
Oh, the downside basically is in the future, if we ever get money from any energy sources offshore other than oil and gas. It would go into the general fund, and it would go to DENR's mineral management account. It's 25% to the Department of Energy and Natural Resources, and 75 into the general fund. But most importantly, I think it would send a message counter to what was done in 2005, that was basically used as ammunition to get GOMESA originally established. So I'm really, the positive side is a positive vote says that we're still investing in the coast, even these smaller amounts of money. But with that, we could go to Washington and we could basically get other states to try to follow suit, and help us change the GOMESA mechanism so that we could remove that cap and change that percentage and get more of the oil and gas revenue, which could really help fund the Coastal Master Plan beyond the BP oil spill days of 2032 and beyond.
All
Now,
right, good answer.
I want to kind of wrap up with you, and I want to dispel a couple of rumors, a couple of nasty rumors, Joe. I'm talking about, this is just
Breaking news, huh?
Word is that you left Polly stuck in the mud.
Miss Polly goes get herself stuck in the mud.
Well, okay. Rumor number two. Number two says that you have a unique ability to say "Go Tigers" that is different than most other people.
We once upon a time had a coach that I could finally understand. So, but he's no longer there. But I mean, he is from South Lafourche. He was at Tarpon, South Lafourche Tarpon.
Wait a minute, that's where you're from.
That's it. Yeah.
And you got the same last name. I'm thinking this has got to be a cousin or something. I don't know.
It is a fourth cousin, and Coach O Bebe is a couple of years older than me, and I have an older brother the same age as him and Bobby Hebert, actually, the Cajun Cannon, and both. I'm the younger brother of my older brother, and Bobby Hebert has a younger brother named Billy Bob that I graduated with, and Coach O has a younger brother as well. So we're kind of anyway. But go Tigers. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
There you go. Look, I think that met the criteria right there. I think you reached the bar.
No, we're not talking about the amendment anymore.
Well, all right. Well, Joe, we appreciate it a ton. And, look, I encourage folks to support this myself. I don't get out there on a limb too much, but I think that this is a move in the right direction. And, Joe, appreciate you going forward and, getting this pushed forward and fighting for it.
My common statement is every election is a personal decision for each individual person. And for you out there in bossierwatch listening land, download the PAR amendment guide, read the ballot language, read the everyday language, read the you're probably in favor if you believe and you're probably against if you believe, and make your own decision. But hopefully with the added information about the coast down here, the help that we need, and how this is not just straightforward. It is also just the add all of the above energy right along with what we agree with oil and gas, but it has that added benefit of actually Majority Leader Scalise and Cassidy going back to Washington and make changes to the oil and gas revenue mechanism so that we could actually get more money sent to the state of Louisiana dedicated for the coastal fund. And thank you all very much.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Welcome back anytime.
All right, Joe. Appreciate it, my friend. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Have a good evening.
All right. So, I got educated there a little bit. I don't see any real downside to this. It's just if the way I took it was if Congress does their part in it, it's diverting more funds to help restore the coastland. Duke, you need to sit up more in your chair. Just getting a
Joe,
headshot.
there is more ways to skin a cat. Why don't I just adjust my camera?
Yeah, there you go. It's
I
Chase
said
Duke
Joe.
around.
Val, sorry.
Average Joe, Val, whatever.
No,
All right.
now look. I restrained myself. Okay, I didn't even go down the road of ducks with Joe. I didn't even question him about ducks. I said, look, let's do something about the ducks. I didn't press him.
I'm proud of you for that. I didn't hit him too hard about, say too many nasty things about the Corps of Engineers and the way way New Orleans has been engineered and all that. I just kind of alluded to it a little bit, but it's pretty in line. He seems like a good guy. He's obviously very passionate about the coastal restoration. So
yes, absolutely, and I agree with him. I like where he's going with what he's going with, and I'm going to adamantly support this. I wish. Well, I was going to say about my failure in convincing the governor to do something about the state of ducks in Louisiana, but I'll leave it right there with what I just said.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. All right, so whatever shall we discuss for the rest of the evening?
I don't know. See, you saved me from saying some other egregious things, but But hey, this is the Crazy Duke Show. We can say whatever we want to say. I guess I just got to get back to the notes. I got to go to the notes. Where are we at?
I don't pay attention to those blasted notes, even though I typed up some of them this afternoon.
You typed up the majority of them. You're high achieving, and so I guess we just got to get to the top and go from there. Look. We're rolling with 100+ people, and thank you all for being here tonight. We hope that Joe telling us about the constitutional amendment was informative, and you know what you're voting for now. So, if you support restoring the coast out of money that it's not costing you nothing right now, I mean, then by all means do it. It's not going to cost you really in the future, in my opinion.
Right.
There's no reason to do it.
Yeah.
But I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
How did we get here to the point where we're now calling this the Crazy Duke Show? How the heck are we here?
Well, in Bubba Don's forgetfulness or whatever in one of the city council meetings last week, honestly, everything's such a blur. He did have one excellent statement, and it was that he said something to the effect of, I don't care what information you get on that Crazy Duke Show. I'm seriously thinking about changing the website, changing everything to the Crazy Duke Show. That's just hilarious.
Yeah, well, look, I ain't so crazy. My wife's not here, and I'm eating on the middle of the show.
Oh yeah, she'll be smacking you in the back of the head when she gets home, I'm sure, over that.
Yeah, that is supposed to be insulting to 100 of y'all watching us, and I'm sticking food in my mouth eating while you're watching us talk.
Yeah,
that's supposed to be insulting to you.
So, in case everybody didn't know, I guess we'll go ahead and start talking about this whole term limits drama, continuing drama, and what just transpired. Because, I got to thinking about it, and maybe I mentioned this before, I don't know, on the show, but this is, it's beyond term limits. Okay, now it's about the benevolent overlords in Bossier City Hall actually following the law or continuing to flaunt and violate the law. And I have to say, the bigger picture here is we're setting a roadmap for things to come potentially for decades, not only in the city of Bossier, but maybe other municipalities. I mean, of course, it could go the other way. We could get our hats handed to us at the Court of Appeals and all that sort of thing, and so we could provide a roadmap for benevolent overlords every entity to follow.
Oh, you're talking about that, there's nowhere ever that there's been retroactive term limits. That setting the precedent here. Is that what you're talking about?
We're doing generational stuff here.
How many people watching the show have y'all heard that what we're trying to do here in Bossier has never ever been done before? Have y'all heard that?
Never. Have
you heard anybody say that, Rex?
Richard Ray himself spouted off plenty of obscenities. Untruths. Things the other day at the meeting or yesterday.
Look, I have to go. Look, I got a message today that was talking about, going and doing an interview with one of the media people. And I just, I was thinking about that. That just sticks in my head. Okay. For anybody watching the show, retroactive term limits. Let's hone this down. Let's get to the heart of the matter here. Supposedly, retroactive term limits, it's never been done.
Yeah.
There is no case of retroactive term limits. It's an anomaly.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna call.
I'm maybe gonna call BS on that, but we'll see.
Well, of course we are, but we can't. We got to kind of bait this thing out here. Can any of you high achievers watching the show, can y'all think of any office that has retroactive term limits? I'm just curious. It's probably a really difficult question here. And there's even people in the media, Rex, that say, "Oh, it's unconstitutional. A lifetime ban on being able to run for an office again. That's unconstitutional. It's got to be."
I'm thinking, has that happened before in the legislative or the executive or the judicial branch?
I'm scratching my head here. Maybe I can't figure it out, but it just seems like I have been familiar with something that has been retroactive for life, some office, but it's escaping me at the moment. And I guess I'm not going to say it until somebody, one of the viewers, come on, at least there's 100 of y'all. At least one of you can put it up there. It's there, but we'll just let it hang and we'll move on.
Yeah.
Let's carry on. So this is the Crazy Duke show. We can do whatever we want.
Y'all heard this. He is in charge and he is driving the show tonight. It's all his fault.
We got a winner. We got a winner already.
Let's see. Federal convicts.
No, Lynette McCauley. She was the first.
Okay, let's see where.
Who knew that the office in the United States that set, how politicians and government should be, the first president of the country, George Washington, term limits.
And he imposed it on himself.
Retroactive term limits.
Yeah.
But somehow or another, these asshats in government in Bossier and their lawyers, it's
what are they teaching in Bossier civics? I hate to pick on the Bossier school board system. Maybe they're from a different town. They ain't from around here, as they like to point out. But what are they? What the heck? Look. One of the comments somewhere I put, Richard Ray's ability to twist the truth knows no bounds. That was on full display.
I don't want to make this just about Richard Ray.
I don't either, but
honestly, I'm going to give Richard Ray a little bit of a pass. He's trying to make a paycheck. He had a tough job.
You're right.
He's being paid to carry their water. And look, it's unfortunate, but lawyers, that's part of their job, is going out there and doing sneaky crap and having to say stuff that they may not personally believe, but they got to carry that damn water. But
he'd hate to come back and not have a job. The city council would fire him because Tommy today, I'm sure wouldn't. That's a whole other conversation.
This ain't his stinking this ain't his stinking thing. I mean,
Right.
the president of the
Well,
United States. I mean, you're trying to say it. I mean, now it's just, well, anyway. Okay, I'm gonna
all
stop
right.
because
So
I'm about to go off the rails here.
all right, let's take it down a little bit, and I'm gonna go over to cut number 1. And this was a good one that you found. It's not white versus black. It's not straight versus gay. It's not rich versus poor. It's not man versus woman. It's the state, the benevolent overlords versus you. And if you don't believe that, then they're beating you. That should be like, we need to make a theme song for that, because that was on full display at the ad hoc bond commission meeting yesterday. It was on full display certainly last week at the Bossier City Council meeting. And of course, we all know at the Charter Commission meetings and other city council meetings. I got to thinking, I want to try to go back and calculate how many minutes of time or hours that the term limits debacle has consumed in the official business of the city of Bossier, between the city council, the bond commission, the court appearances, and all that, all because they chose not to put the first petition on the ballot. Let that sink in for a minute. If they had just let it go to the voters in 2023, correct me on my year, 2023, none of the rest of this follow-up would have transpired. But oh no, the state, the city in this case, is against you. Period. All right.
I appreciate you carrying that all the way through. I do. I couldn't have said it better, but it gave me a moment to follow everybody in the comments and the things that y'all were saying. I got to tell you, you guys are on top of it, and I love it. In fact, I'm not going to say which one. There's one comment in there that somebody has been paying attention to detail of what's been going on in Bossier. And I mean, they have focused, and hat tip to y'all in the comments, because y'all are tuned in and paying attention. And that one comment proves to me, when you pay attention to some detail, if you caught that, you caught something. And I'm not even going to go there, but carry on, Rex. I just had to say that. Hat tip to the audience.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not even. I guess the best place to start is to just kind of go point by point down our nose. All right. I got to say, I followed, of course, John Fleming in the past when he was he was U.S. rep, right?
Yep, Congressman.
Right.
He was
Congressman John Fleming.
Mike Johnson's current seat. He was the guy.
That's correct. Correct. Of course, he's also a medical doctor and owns some other businesses and all that. So I've followed him in politics for a while. But I got to tell you, Duke, I was pleasantly amazed and surprised at his calm demeanor and his absolute staunch support of the First Amendment. I mean, full stop. He didn't make any bones about it.
No, I mean, look, he is the real deal. And I have to admit, I did not know that about him when he ran for Congress or when he was the congressman. I really didn't. I didn't know how much of a constitutionalist he was. I learned even more about him this time around.
Yeah. Well,
there's actually a funny story I'll tell in a minute, but
yeah. Well,
believe it or not, he seems like he does. He seems like he doesn't. He's just this. I hate to say it this way. I hate to say it because it's kind of critical that he's this boring, monotone guy, but he's actually not.
No, he's not. Far from it.
Really weird sense of humor.
I expected him any minute to.
He is the guy.
I expected him any minute to like rip open his, suit jacket and instead of the Superman logo have like the First Amendment emblazoned on his T-shirt. Look, Does anybody in the audience remember underoos? Duke, did you ever have underoos when you were a kid?
We couldn't
was-
afford underoos. We ran around naked. What the heck are you talking about?
It's the underwear that we wore as kids, and like you had Superman and Spider-Man and all that. I bet you anything, if John Fleming wore underoos as a child, his underoos had the Constitution emblazoned on them. And maybe Ben Franklin.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
All right. So with all those accolades, yeah.
Did you have underoos?
I did have underoos. I wore them as a little
You must have
kid.
been on. You was on the rich side of the tracks, obviously. See, I was on the poor side of the tracks.
No, I had like one or two pair, and I wore them up. They had holes in them, but anyway, my parents they did buy me a pair or two of underoos, so that was all.
Well, you were up and coming then. Okay, I get it.
All right. I don't know if we should go into. Shall we move on to the fallout from Alice Boyer? Or let's just go straight into the bond commission meeting.
Well, I think what's interesting. I think we could set the tone by going back with the Alice Boyer issue, is because interestingly, even in the bond commission, the issue of residency and whether or not you are a resident, it seems to be a question that continuously comes up, but it only comes up when it's convenient, it seems.
Yeah, well, that's Richard Ray trying to make his paycheck. All right, so I think that's a good idea. So give me just a second here, and let me get this queued up. Let me make sure that everything's playing nicely with technology tonight. I love the software you use, but last week and the week before we had a few gremlins. All right, so for those of you that aren't aware, this is the May the 8th regular Bossier City Council meeting, and this is Miss Alice Boyer. Now, I think we showed this a week or two ago on the show. So this is, again, like Duke suggested, I think is a great idea. This is kind of setting the tone for the disdain. So the deal is that we publicized a letter that Bossier City Councilman Jeffrey Darby had signed on to that was for immigrants and migrants. And I don't know if he actually, it didn't really pledge support, but it did mention being very supportive of those migrants and individuals coming into our country, and it didn't really specify whether they're illegal or not. And he was the only person from Louisiana, the only government official of any sort from Louisiana that signed on to this. And the city council is just trying to ignore it. Like, if we ignore it long enough, it's going to go away. Well, newsflash for you asshats, as Duke likes to say, it ain't going away. And Miss Alice Boyer made sure that it's not going to go away now. So I'm going to hit play on this, and let's watch and see what happened as just a refresher. And again, this sets the tone for the bond commission meeting.
Here, 5041 Highway 80, Haughton, Louisiana. I'm glad to see that there's a possibility of some agenda items being changed on here, because I agree with the fact that I think it's a great idea that this gets approved and added to the agenda, but the other item that the citizens put through needs to be added to the agenda also. It should have been added previously. The other thing that needs to be added to the agenda is this situation that involves the community. The support that is being given to the United Nations in the form of a refugee.
Ms. Boyer,
I am not going to have my speech.
We're not talking about that. That's not on our agenda
It needs
nowhere.
to be on the agenda. It needs to be on the agenda.
We're
It says
not-
2025. It's the United Nations, and you're sitting there and you have a councilman that has put this up as a possibility for regurgitated money
Ms.
from the.
Boyer.
No,
We're not talking about it.
it needs to be discussed. You need to explain to the people that if I'm wrong, explain to them how I'm wrong.
Now, I want to point out here again, for those of you that might be new or have not seen this yet, what she is saying is germane to the agenda, because they were literally discussing the agenda items and approving the agenda. So her comments,
and amending the agenda to add
correct,
things that aren't on the agenda.
correct. So her comment is very germane to the subject that I'm gonna, again suggest that the morons down at Bossier City Hall go and read open meetings laws. They might want to read Robert's Rules of Order, and a whole host of other things that are freely available to any of you idiot government officials. All right, here we go.
It's a fair question, Paul Johnson. It's a fair question. Are they or are they not? Based on this, at least one member of the council is okay with them dropping 15,000 Haitians in here.
Yeah.
Hence why we had the show, hide your cats and dogs.
Exactly correct.
Explain to them how this is not going to happen. Explain how this is not going to happen.
I'm just going to ask you to sit down, okay? I'm going to ask you nicely to sit down.
You're going to interrupt my 3 minutes and me pointing out some important factors on this situation. You all want to sit us down about our term limits. Y'all have shut us down by this coalition anyway.
Okay, now
So why is there not
Notice
gonna
the
be equal
deputies
handling?
walking
And
up
why
back
do you
there.
want to shut me down again when this is important about the safety and the welfare of our community?
this is your second time. I'm going to ask you to sit down again, okay?
And is my 3 minutes up? No, not yet, sir.
But you're not going to sit up here and
Three
speak.
marshal
We're not gonna talk about
deputies.
what you wanna talk about.
Okay, I'm going to calm my voice down.
Boy, she's just
We're still not
the
gonna talk
rules
about
of decorum. She just is totally
Appreciate you
ignoring.
calming
You
your
don't
voice
think,
down.
well, you
Wow.
don't think that the people want to know about this?
If you know about it, I'm sure everybody knows about it.
No, I doubt that, and I think it needs to be discussed publicly.
Well, then go
And
have
you
a
all
meeting
need
in your neighborhood,
this,
discuss it publicly.
it says "we." Does this
Go have a
is this
meeting in your
council involved
neighborhood.
in it?
He
It
should
says
have
"we,"
said.
sir.
That don't mean nothing.
He should have said, "Go talk to the Crazy Duke show."
Yeah.
That's what he should
Go
have
get on the
said.
Crazy Duke show. I got a
He
better
should have
idea.
said it.
Bubba Don, you all, you know our phone numbers. Come on. You're welcome to come on anytime and let's discuss this very issue. We can discuss Jeffrey Darby's stance about illegal immigrants and tacit approval by the city of Bossier to do this as a sitting city councilman.
Yeah,
Or
but you showed. Look, I'm gonna take up for. Look, Bubba is my friend, regardless of whether I agree with him or not, or criticize him or not, or whatever. You showed the email where he said, "I don't believe in that crap." You shared it. Somebody emailed him, sent it to you. You showed it. He said he doesn't agree with that crap, but I disagree with him that they should have addressed it. And
all
the
he had to do was let her say her piece.
agreed.
The city councilmen, the government officials, are not required by any law to answer. They just have to
I
let you
agree.
comment. If he'd have
I'm
just
not-
shut up,
Yeah, I'm not taking up for him on that
I
point.
know.
He should have just let her say whatever the heck she wanted to say. She was saying, y'all need to address it. And he's like, okay, you're saying we need to. We disagree. We're not going to address it. And they don't do it.
right?
End
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. But that's
And-
not how it ended.
No,
which
and
was it was a mistake the way they handled it.
At 3 minutes, she could have got her buzzer and dinger, and that'd have been done. All right, here we go.
The words are clear all through this letter. We.
Okay, so, listen. I'm asking you to sit down nicely, and next time.
You're not asking me
next time
nicely,
we'll have
and
you
you're
escorted-
disregarding me again.
Next time, we'll have you escorted out.
Is my time up, sir?
It don't matter. I'm
It
You're
telling you.
don't
denying
matter.
my First Amendment right to speak about something that is of concern to this
Marshall,
community.
could you just come escort her out, please?
Okay,
you
wait a
gonna let me
minute.
talk?
Wait a
We're not
minute.
gonna-
He just said, officer, can you come escort her out?
Yeah. She's
I
out.
mean,
She got kicked out.
you know,
I want to know, does anybody watching the show, can y'all remember another time when city marshal deputies had to escort somebody out of a city council meeting?
she has achieved a level of infamy that I don't know that we've had anyone else on this show achieve.
That's right. She should get
You know,
her own show.
No. We egregiously failed to anoint her as the cockroach of the week this happened.
Yes. And to remind everybody, the cockroach of the week can also be for very positive things.
Yes. I mean, expert. I don't know if there's an expert level cockroach of the week, but she achieved cockroach of the week hands down. I mean,
look,
she
we're
took it.
right here on this level, doing stuff and saying things. She's up here and then just off on a whole other level. All the stuff we've said, we are yet to be kicked out of a meeting forcefully, and she's about to get it right here.
Let's show it.
So we're just going to escort you out of the building. That's all.
Poor Leroy.
I will walk out.
Well, okay. Well, there's a little bit of technicality. I mean, the badges are walking her out, escorting her out. I mean, she was ordered but she said, I will walk out.
Right.
I wonder what the council meeting minutes reflect in violating her First Amendment rights. I wonder how they documented that.
Well, let's see. All right. So our good friend, Mr. Michael Ferris, says John Settle was kicked by the Queen. Well, right. But in Settle's defense, the marshals didn't escort him out, and he was threatened with a Zamboni, so he decided to go ahead and leave. All right, let's see what the minutes of that meeting reflect. So give me just a second. Let me switch screens here. Let me do a little clicking around, and let me find the correct cut. So I'm going to put the cut 05 in there because that's the important part. So let me hit that button and hit there. Okay, so these are the minutes from the October 8th Bossier City Council meeting that were just recently published. And you can see I've highlighted in yellow. I understand it might be small for those of you watching on mobile, but that's okay. It says, and I quote, audience member Alice Boyer spoke about other issues she felt should be on the agenda. In the minutes, it says that her comments were pertinent. She was speaking about other items that she felt should be on the agenda. After failure to abide by meeting rules repeatedly, Miss Boyer was asked to leave the meeting. Now, do y'all consider those impertinent remarks? Because I certainly don't. I don't consider them impertinent. Again, she was talking about adding something to the agenda that she felt was necessary. And the definition of impertinent is not showing proper respect or rude. She may have been a little direct or a little blunt, but she was certainly respectful enough.
Well, I don't know. Is it selfish or insulting when I say that, to the 150 people or to the number of people that are watching? The reason I say that is because I want you to know, we know that you can't see the number of the total amount of people that are from the different platforms. We are able to see a number that is different than anything that you can see. So I say that to say to the 150 people that are currently viewing whatever, and that number fluctuates a little bit. The point she's making, and the reason that we're going back to this, Rex, and we're focusing on this, is because for some reason, these legislators and their talking heads continue to keep making an issue of non-residents of Bossier City making issues regarding the governance of Bossier City. Yet, in this instance, when admittedly Alice Boyer doesn't live in Bossier City, she has an interest in what happens in Bossier City. She is making the point to talk regarding an issue of not just non-residents of Bossier City, non-residents of the freaking country being brought to Bossier City, and it's falling on deaf ears. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear it. So how is it that they can make the argument that they take issue with people that are not residents of Bossier City talking about Bossier City business, but yet they don't even want to address the issue of potential non-Americans having influence in Bossier City. How can you have it both ways?
Well,
I mean, to try to have it
hypocrisy
both
knows
ways,
no bounds.
there you go. Bingo.
Okay. So, Miss Alice, again, was kicked out of the meeting for saying something or commenting on something relevant to the agenda, which was the topic at hand. It was literally approving the agenda or adding stuff to the agenda. So her comments were absolutely relevant. Bubba Don is, well, that's a whole other conversation. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to go through the comments for just a second. Where shall we go next with your show? It's the crazy show.
That is a crazy show. So everybody, and I would suspect there's a lot of people. I mean, I've gotten a ton of questions, obviously, because I was at the bond commission meeting. I spoke. You know, there's a lot happened since the last show that we had. You had a regular council meeting. You had a special council meeting. You had the bond commission meeting. So much has transpired, and it's happened in a really fast amount of time. And then you had the lawsuit that was filed yesterday, same day as the bond commission meeting. I, I really, be honest with you, this is the way the week has, the last 7 days has been for me. It has been a blur. And I haven't known who's on first. I really don't know. I'm mumbling here. I apologize, but I'm just trying to express exactly the way it's been. It's been a whirlwind.
Yeah,
so
it definitely has. So why don't we go? We'll follow our kind of outline that we made, and that'll keep us on track. And I say because it's kind of a timeline anyway. So we'll skip the special meeting for tonight because that would put us here till midnight probably. And let's set up the deal that there was the ad hoc bond commission meeting was called. The agenda was changed on Friday before it was published. To be clear, before they published the agenda. Well, actually, they had already published it on their website. Before the meeting was called, the agenda was changed to add the Bossier City Charter Commission term limits distraction, however we want to call it. And that prompted a series of events, including you and the Colonel, going down to the ad hoc bond commission meeting on Monday. So I'm going to catch up on comments here for a minute, and then I'll go ahead and I guess we can talk about the lawsuit for the TRO, set that up, move into the meeting, and discuss that, and then maybe what bearing that has on the lawsuit that was filed Monday morning.
Now, yeah, absolutely. Before you go that, I shared you a picture, and to our guest that was earlier, someone submitted me evidence that Representative Joe Orgeron, evidence and proof that he left Polly stuck in the mud. And in fact, what's so egregious about it is I think he took the picture of him doing it.
Yeah, not only did he leave Polly in the mud, he took the time to take a selfie of leaving Polly in the mud. That is epic. That is epic.
I don't know how that works. Maybe it's a South Louisiana thing, but he did it.
Yeah, and took a selfie.
Anyway.
Way to go. All right. Squirrel moment, but okay, back to it.
All right, roll with it.
Okay, so where the heck am I here? All right, I need to show the lawsuit PDF. Okay, so here we go, folks. Y'all hang on. Let me do a little clicking of buttons and that sort of thing. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to go to this, which is a lawsuit that was filed first thing early Monday morning, and some of you have seen this, KTBS actually had it posted. And so this was filed in the 26 JDC. This is Miss Ruth Pope Johnston, as we know it, versus the City of Bossier City and the City Council, both being defendants into this. She filed this pro se, which means no attorney. And we can kind of go through this real quickly. Duke, you want to handle maybe kind of going down through point by point, or what the summary of it is?
Yeah, so petitioner shows defendant City of Bossier City, a home rule charter. I mean, everybody knows Bossier City is governed by a home rule charter, and they this whole thing regards them trying to seek to amend the home rule charter. I'm not going to read this whole thing because that's
let's give them the quick summary of it.
Yeah, so the bottom line is how, I don't know, I'm almost like I should just say it the way that I said it at the bond commission meeting and tell the story of how all this went. And how all of this went was the Term Limits Coalition's petition got started. The city fought it. They saw that it would be successful. They fought it. They knew they were going to be able to beat it on the technicality. We all said, you all know, I'm not repeating anything that you don't know. We all said that, hey, we're going to do the petition again. Them guys down there, okay, how is the best way to fight it? And they knew that the second time around, they wouldn't get the opportunity to have a technicality to beat it the second time. So then probably somebody with a legal mind, I'm not saying who, somebody gave them countless ideas of ways to try to defeat the people from affecting retroactive term limits, which again, it's never happened before in the history of the world, retroactive term limits. I mean, nobody can think of an office that happened. Anyway,
there's some judges come to mind, and something that I think actually happened in the state of Louisiana, considering with the judiciary about term limits. But and the sitting judges didn't really qualify. But anyway, that's a whole other point.
You might ask some past presidents. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they may have something. They may want to weigh in here. I don't know. But
all
anyway.
Right, but I've got highlighted here and I want to say this. We're going to play the video from the bond commission meeting here in a little bit, and I don't want your head to get too big because it might blow up bigger than the screen here on your crazy show that's now named after you.
It's okay. I have Kara here, not here to take away my pretzels.
There you go. You gave, and the Colonel gave, a master class in commentary and being professional about it in front of the bond commission and John Fleming. So I want to give you credit for that. Folks, if you hadn't yet, after the show or tomorrow when you have time or whatever, if you hadn't already, go watch the bond commission meeting. We've got it posted and transcribed and all that. All right. But backing up. So the bond commission meeting is at 11 o'clock on Monday morning. This suit was filed first thing Monday morning, about 8:30, 8:35, I don't know, whatever time it was. And the premise of it, and this is important because you'll hear this in the bond commission dialogue, petitioner shows ordinance 154 of 2023 states that no election shall be called no earlier than 60 days following the publication of the recommendations as attached as Exhibit A and referenced at the following link in the city's own minutes. So give us the quick 30-second summary of that, and we'll move on.
Well, the bottom line is to form a charter commission, it has to be by ordinance, city council, in which, everybody doesn't read the charter. They don't read the home rule charter that is the governing document of the city of Bossier. And it basically lays out the provisions of how you amend the charter, how you call a home rule charter committee. If you want to amend your charter by that method, there's only two methods to do it. It's one, by either a home rule charter committee, or it's by petition of the people. Well, obviously, petition of the people does not matter if the council are lawless and don't follow the law. 154 of 23 formed this charter commission, and they adopted within that ordinance rules for how the charter commission would work. And I'm going to say it this way, and I can prove it here in a minute, will pick and choose which parts of the ordinance that they all adopted and they all voted for that they want to follow, but then they pick and choose which parts of it they want to ignore. The 60 days, that's a part they chose to ignore, and they didn't abide by it, and I can prove it.
Okay. Yeah, and you pretty much did prove it. There's no doubt about that. All right. Let's see. All right. Petitioner shows defendants, City of Osier, did not receive the submitted recommendations of the Charter Review Commission appointed in that very ordinance. As evidence of that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. On October the 8th, which was the regular council meeting as of Tuesday, if you looked at the agenda that was posted before the start of the meeting, there was nothing, zero, not a thing pertaining to charter commission recommendations, anything whatsoever. So what happened was they tried to amend the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. Did we show that in our last show? Yeah, we may have covered it a little bit.
Maybe.
They tried to amend the agenda to add a resolution and to add a ordinance to send to the bond commission the recommendations. We talked about it. To the credit of Councilman Brian Hammonds, he voted against it. If it wasn't for Brian Hammonds, I mean,
we'd have had a problem.
This would be a totally different conversation. Brian Hammonds deserves the credit for everything. He saved the day. And
I'm just going to say it. He had the stones, the kahunas, the balls to vote the way that he needed to vote. Period. Because you're right. The difference was a matter of a couple of days here. That's it. And because of that, that's why Richard Ray and them were so dejected when he voted no. They just didn't expect that at all because they had to have a unanimous vote to add it to the agenda. And they knew what we're showing you and telling you here. They've just never actually stated most of this in an open meeting. This is what they were calculating on the entire time. Now, the term limits drama and saga is not over yet. But this was one of their keys to their attempted success.
Yeah, it was one of their key moments, and it was one of their key milestones. And Brian Hammonds doing what he did, he upset the apple cart. Chris, I'm just going to say it like it is. Chris fell in line, and Chris, Chris didn't do what needs to be done. Now, Chris sent a response. We asked him. We sent an email. He sent a response, and I think we read it on the show. He articulated his justification. A lot of people have sent emails. A lot of people have asked us and questions. Why did Chris do what he did? They haven't accepted what the stated response and reason why he did what he did. Well, I'll let you take a shot at that.
I'll just say this. Chris, you're getting very bad campaign advice. And you know as well as I do, and multiple other people, that whole soliloquy and soapbox you gave at the city council meeting about voting your conscience is, everybody cover your ears, complete horse shit. Because if it was, you would have slept well that night and would not have been on so many phone calls. Let's just put it that way. So you can blow that smoke up everybody else's ass, but not ours. And I'll just leave it at that. That's me saying that, not necessarily Duke.
Well, I'm going to say it this way. Here's what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is that he's right when he says the interpretation of what the charter says legally says that shall, and that's the position that he took, is that, okay, I'm not going to criticize them for not abiding by shall, and then not abide by it myself. I get that, but my contention is that these are two totally different things. The petition was met every prerequisite to be sent to a vote of the people. To have not abided by shall in that context and abide by shall in this context were two different things. And we're going to go through the why of that here in just a second. And the reason is because there are questions about the validity of what moving forward with the process of sending something to the bond commission to ask for it to be moved, the charter commission to be moved to an election in the first place. There's plenty of questions. Is it simply us and the public who are the only ones that are capable of asking those questions? Can it not be an elected official who can raise those questions and raise those issues? And, oh, by the way, I mean, do we automatically accept the stated opinions of the city attorney or the assistant city attorney as being correct and valid? I mean, seems like I recall countless meetings where attorneys themselves have said, look, AG opinions, those are just opinions. From one lawyer to the next. You can, derive what you want from it.
Well, and I'll say this. Tommy has made a terrible choice in the legal department for the city in appointing Jacobs in 2020 hindsight, and thus Richard Ray. And look, y'all want to see some fireworks? I encourage you, watch the next city council meeting or go to it, because I'm going to be there and I'm going to have a little fun with the attorneys. I'll just leave it at that.
But we're going to show it here in just a second. I think John Fleming, AKA the First Amendment underoos wearing, constitutionalist that he is, he said it perfectly. Politicians will support the term limit. He's seen them support it all day long when they're running for office, and then when they get in there, they're not there. They suddenly don't support it. And
funny how that works.
That's what separates, a public servant from a politician, is the ones that are going to, in the tough times, they're going to still stand there.
Right.
And this was an issue that has tried people. And I think some mistakes were made. And I got to call it like it is. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say why I think, because look, this is the $1 million question, why Chris Smith he voted the way that he voted. I would be a total hypocrite if I didn't say the why here. And, look, I will be friends with Chris if he wants to be after this. If he doesn't want to be, I respect that as well too. But the bottom line is in this package that was going to go to the bond commission and go to a vote, there was a change in the at-large council districts of A and B, which would enable him possibly to have an easier path to reelection. And I think that, in my opinion, may have governed his decision to support it. He can deny that,
You mean he was looking
that,
out for himself and not necessarily for the folks?
well, look, an argument can be made that in the big picture, from a strategic standpoint, it is safer to uh, ensure that he's reelected, ensure that Hammond's reelected, and the situation is such that the incumbents are not in a good position to be reelected, that we can run opposition against them and potentially have a majority to, set the ship right in Bossier City. Um, I,
Well,
I,
I would
I did,
make the argument that you can't trust Chris Smith at all.
no, look, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is that I understand the political strategy, and because that's what this was. This was political strategy.
Yeah, no matter
I,
what he said at the meeting, it wasn't about doing the right thing and he had to vote for because of charters. That's all smoke and mirrors. 100%. I can say with certainty.
well, the trying to calculate. Most people don't calculate on just what's right in front of them. Most politicians are calculating multiple moves. It goes back to that old thing of they're playing. They're playing chess and we're playing checkers. I mean, this is a chess game here, and moves are being calculated way down the road. I think this is a case where moves are being calculated way down the road. And it doesn't mean that just because you're calculating way down the road, you're going to make the right calculation. Because I think probably today, after that bond commission meeting, there's some people that are thinking, you know what? I freaking made the wrong calculation.
Yeah. And by the way, Chris, you're welcome to dial in at any time. All right. So let's get into the bond commission meeting. So we set the stage where there were the meetings last week. They had to have the special meeting to send the stuff down to the bond commission. So there's a bond commission with the city on the agenda that's set up for 11 o'clock Monday. There's a petition filed for temporary restraining order filed about 8:30ish, 8:45ish, whatever time it officially was, in the 26 JDC. You and the colonel are en route to Baton Rouge and y'all get down there. So I'm going to switch screens, but why don't you give us a little bit of the inside baseball? Let's start from the point of what was it like when y'all walked in?
Oh, well, I mean, look, when we walked in, I mean, there's a lot of people there. You can't tell it by that picture, but there was a lot of people there, and you didn't know. We talked to a sheriff of a parish down in South Louisiana. I can't remember the parish. They had an issue that was on the ballot there, and kind of didn't know where that was going to go. And Colonel Crockett and I, we walked in, we sat down. We were surprised that we didn't see anybody else. So while we're sitting there, in walks Richard Ray and some other gent, didn't know who it was. And I was like, oh, okay, well, interesting to see Richard Ray here. And didn't exactly know how things were going to go. I will say, admittedly, before the start of this thing, I gave us I didn't know that we would be successful. I thought we had a uh, less than average chance of success. I kind of didn't think, because, the
I
bond
mean,
commission,
aren't these usually
it is.
kind of rubber stamp deals?
That's exactly the way it is.
Okay.
In fact, somebody told me that people never show up down there to oppose things that government bodies put forward, that it just doesn't happen. In fact, I had somebody tell me that, to their knowledge, within the previous year, and you can't hold me to this, I don't know it to be an accurate stat, but they told me that they only knew of one other circumstance where a municipality's request was denied or deferred. But it was primarily because there was opposition. And this goes to the point that people don't involve themselves in government enough, and they don't state their opinion. They don't get involved and speak up. And, politicians and people are able to steer the ship and rudder and move it the way they want to do it, because you don't express your right. You don't get involved.
Yeah, and so I wonder if, because I had called down there to the bond commission on Friday to see kind of what it, how it procedurally worked and how they allowed public commentary and all that. So they were, and I got to say, the Leela Folsey right here in the shot, she's, I think, the director of the bond commission is her title. But anyway, she was very nice, and she explained the process and said, look, normally we have these ad hoc meetings, which are, I guess, a smaller subcommittee meetings in a little, conference hall, and they went ahead and moved it back to the Senate building just in case there were more people that showed up. And I assured her that, we only thought we might have 2 or 3 people go down there, and that we would, of course, be professional about it and all that. But she was aware of the situation here in Bossier, at least somewhat, because she indicated on the that on the phone that she had seen some of the meetings, or at least kind of knew at least vaguely what the issue was about. My question is, I wonder if Richard Ray knew that you and the Colonel were going to be down there, or anybody for that matter.
I don't know. I would have been surprised if he didn't suspect that we would have. I mean, we telegraphed it. I said it in the Robert and Aaron show, whatever morning it was. I talked about, that there's the opportunity for the bond commission to reject it. So, look, he reading the tea leaves, he probably knew that we probably were going to. And I would give credit that it was short notice, but the day before this bond commission meeting, I mean, and I'll give credit to Wes Marriott, yourself, Colonel Crockett, y'all all worked on putting a letter together, submitted to people for people to, express opposition to this. And, a number was desired to be had to be able to send it. There was a deadline. It was fast, and y'all got it done. And it was a well-articulated letter in opposition to this. And for the most part, Colonel Crockett read that letter, because I don't think that the bond commission members that you only see John Fleming, but there were some other members that were there on there that all voted. And, Colonel Crockett read the letter. I think Fleming says here in a minute, he said, we just received some letter, and they had not had an opportunity to read it. And Colonel Crockett kind of went through it and read it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play here in a second. So folks, this whole meeting is about an hour long. We're going to go through most of it play by play. But I want everybody to know that this absolutely was a team effort between all of us, me, you, the Colonel, Wes, everybody involved, and everybody that signed the letter. We didn't publish it on social media. But we got immediate responses to it, and we're able to put that together. So that's what they're referencing, and that's been posted on Bossier Watch or Bossier Term Limits or whatever. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start at ground zero. What do you think?
Rock on.
All right, here we go.
Next item is item 3 for the city of Bossier City. This is an election request for the December 7th ballot for the city of Bossier City to amend its home rule charter. I would note, we passed out earlier, we do have a letter of opposition that we just handed out to you, along with another document there. And I would note that the item, it's been reviewed, and it meets the technical requirements.
Okay.
Stop there.
All right. So we do have 2 white cards. I guess, yeah, both in opposition. First, we have David Crockett. If you'd like to step forward? Sure. Yeah, come forward. And if you would, sir, restate your name and who you represent, and anything else that be relevant to the subcommittee.
Absolutely. David Crockett. I live in North Bossier City. I'm a member of the Bossier Term Limits Coalition, and I appreciate the opportunity to address this issue. This issue is very controversial in Bossier City, and since you just received the memo, I think I should probably read from the memo, if that's appropriate.
That's correct. That's fine.
But honorable commission members and Mr. Fleming. Appreciate all the work that you guys do for our local communities. At the heart of American governments is a respect for the rule of law and the Constitution.
I probably ought to speed it up.
Right,
I don't know
yeah.
if you're at real time speed, but let's get through this fast. Let's speed it up because I think a lot of people, y'all read the letter. You know what
they've
was
read
the
the letter.
content of it.
Well, and not to take away from Colonel Crockett, but we can go ahead and I'm just going to jump to where Fleming asked the question. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah,
Let's do
there
it.
we go.
Interrupting you. I'm not a lawyer, and this is not a court of law, so we're not going to make any of those decisions, whether it's constitutional. That's not really our purpose here today. But let me ask you a question. You said that there should have been an ordinance passed rather than a resolution. What is the threshold for those two to be passed? One failed, one passed. So what is that threshold?
Well, the threshold is that it requires 2 readings in the city council where the public gets an opportunity, and it requires a majority of the council to pass each reading. If it fails, then it would not go forward. So
I guess my basic question is, why would a resolution pass on the same subject and the same content and an ordinance wouldn't? What's different about those?
A resolution only requires 1 reading. However, the charter itself, if I go back to what it says, it requires one of the listed.
But it's basically a majority vote. Is that correct?
It absolutely is a majority vote.
Okay, so
I just want to interject right there, and the Colonel was trying to think on his feet, but what he should have said was that it may or may not pass on the second reading if some new information is brought forward that may cause a councilman potentially to change their vote, because that could arguably happen.
Well, I think they end up getting to that to where, look, the second vote just has not taken place. I think the Colonel articulates that here in a second.
Okay, here we go.
So the ordinance had to have 2 readings and I guess 2 votes. It must have passed on one and then failed on another, and then the resolution passed on one. Is that correct?
Well, they have not given themselves enough time to meet this requirement. So the next reading on the ordinance is not for another 10 days.
So there has to be a gap of time.
There has to be a gap of time. It doesn't necessarily say a specified amount of time.
Well, let me say, from our standpoint, from the Bond Commission standpoint, it doesn't matter whether it's an ordinance or a resolution. That is a matter that does, I'm sure, affect your ongoing litigation, and that, of course, may affect the outcome from that standpoint. For us, that's not an issue. We pass resolutions all the time here, so I just wanted to make that point. What other points do you make, again, aside from law and the Constitution, which we're not here to judge? What points do you make here today that you want everyone to know about the commission?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me a chance to read that. I've really read through most of my points.
Right.
We have another speaker here, but
Right.
my main problem that I would like to present to this group is that the expeditious nature of the way they're doing this and violating the timeline that gives the people allowed time that's required by our charter to speak on these issues. That's a constitutional First Amendment right that we have to comment.
But getting away from the Constitution, I'm just looking at an administrative question. So as I understand it, the input I've had on this is what this comes down to is retroactive or non-retroactive or prospective term limits, that everyone agrees that there should be term limits, but there's still disagreement and even litigation over whether or not they would actually be retroactive.
And I think it's important for folks that may be new watching. Retroactive means that, to put it simply, the existing council members that have served above the term limits time, if the petition goes to the ballot and passes, then those councilmen would no longer be eligible to serve in the future. Did I say that correctly enough, Mr. Lowry?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And when he says prospective, that means that they can continue serving up to whatever term limits may or may not be elected at the ballot by the people.
Correct.
Okay, here we go.
Would you like for me to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, basically, to bring you up to, Mr. Lowry is going to speak on that, but one of the points that he may not have been prepared to speak on specifically is that this is our second petition that we've done. Retroactivity is in our petition that we won the case at the 26 JDC, who pretty much, almost, some of the arguments that were made by the city were really not taken very seriously because they weren't serious arguments. So we do have retroactivity in our term limits, and basically one of the conclusions of the judge's ruling was that the city should not have stopped our petition because they would have to pass it, and then somebody in the council would have to challenge it in order to deal with the constitutionality of the retroactivity of the term limits.
That's important what the colonel just says, because and we've discussed this before, the city council's contention, the good old boys' contention has been, well, you can't do the retroactivity because that's not constitutional. Well, you don't know whether it's constitutional or not until there's been a lawsuit and it's been dealt with by the court system. And that's what...
Wait a minute. All right. Okay. This is a Crazy Duke show. I just tuned in. The Bossier City says that retroactivity is not constitutional. Are they contending to defect from the United States and declare that the United States is no longer governed by a president of the United States who has term limits?
Yeah. Well, and as we talked about earlier, the very first president, the term limits were self-imposed and retroactive. Not legally imposed, self-imposed and retroactive. Just saying.
I mean, what is the difference between the self-imposed politician that recognized retroactivity and the politician of modern day in Bossier that says, well, they never existed?
Right.
I wonder.
And so Ron Haygood says, I've heard from two different deep staters that retroactivity is vindictive. How? It's not vindictive. They're not banned from running from any office. They can continue to use it as a stepping stone to other offices just like they do all the time. It's their prerogative. All right, here we go.
So by what he says, George Washington should have committed himself. George Washington was a danger to himself. Perhaps they should have had him committed.
No, maybe so. Crazy guy. He could have been on the Crazy Duke show.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. I mean, this stupid thing called freedom in the United States and the First Amendment and the Constitution. I get it. I think I see where they're coming from.
Yeah, here we go.
Crazy.
So, and in fact, we don't believe that it's in any way unconstitutional to have retroactivity of term limits.
Okay, so really, from what I can determine, everybody agrees that there should be term limits. The only disagreement is whether they're retroactive or not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, I realize there's a lot of administrative and legal questions here.
Let's be clear. If the good old boys and Queen David had their way, there would be no term limits on the table whatsoever. Let's just be clear about that.
If they had their way, everybody would sustain death by Zamboni if you even open your mouth to object to anything that they wanted to do.
Point of order. Here we go.
But I'm just trying to boil it down to the essence of what the real disagreement is here.
Well, Mr. Fleming, it's not just that. Some of the other changes that occurred in the charter, we don't believe are fixing the problems in Bossier City, so it's not just term limits.
Good point.
We believe that the charter is not fixing the major problem that Bossier City has with its city council taking away the responsibilities of the mayor. So we're arguing that they didn't take the time to give the people enough time to comment on those issues as well. There are some things that they've changed in the new charter that are going to be improvement, but I don't think that they've taken some of the other issues seriously that the people wanted.
Right. Okay. Before I recognize Mr. Lowry, are you a resident, citizen of Bossier City?
I am not myself, but on the memo that you got of the 52 or so signatures that we got, The majority of those are citizens in Bossier City. I do pay Bossier City water. I do spend all my money in Bossier City, and I have a right to comment in the council meetings. And so I am one of the original members of the Bossier Term Limits Coalition, and I was a petitioner myself that walked the streets in Bossier City.
Right. Now, you're not an attorney representing this. You're a citizen.
I'm a citizen.
Okay. All right. Mr. Lowry, Duke Lowry, good to see you today.
Test.
Okay. Tell us what your role is here today, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, again, my name is Michael Lowry. My home address is 1835 Glen Drive, Benton, Louisiana.
Hold on.
Point of...
I didn't want to stop on your address so Kara didn't, whack you in the back of the head again.
I got to correct him.
Okay.
Lowry.
Wait a minute. Say that again. Either you're cutting out or I am, one of us.
No, bad boy. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when you get on the crazy show? Bad boy. Anyway, okay, go on. Carry on.
All right, here we go.
Of being a citizen of Bossier, I do not live within the geographical boundaries of the city of Bossier, although I was born there in 1970. I've had a private business there for 27 years. I retired from the Bossier City Fire Department. I currently serve as the chairman of the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee. I have been a part of the Bossier Term Limits Coalition since the beginning. And again, this movement began with a group of citizens who were having questions and problems regarding the governance in the city of Bossier City. Right. That coalition grew to include not only just the Republican Party of Bossier City, but the Democrat Party of Bossier, as well as the NAACP. It was a diverse group of people that come together, all in agreement. And you should know, to the issue of retroactivity, all were in agreement. And what you should also know is that the citizens of Bossier, not once, but twice, signed a petition, over each petition, over 3,000 people supporting retroactivity. So to the issue of...
These are citizens of Bossier City?
Citizens of Bossier City. Okay. Twice, we've got a certified petition by the Registrar of Voters submitted to the city, and twice the city has sought to prevent that from going to the ballot for an election of the people. So when I didn't have kind of that to say, I did have some comments that I wanted to say, and I thought of giving you some history. Before you get to those comments,
let me just ask you the same question that I did, Mr. Crockett, and that is, you agree that the major disagreement here, there may be others, but the major one is retroactivity versus prospective term limits. Is that correct?
All right, I want to stop it right there because I want to reiterate the fact I put in the comments it's the masterclass on the Term Limits Coalition, and I want to thank you, Duke, because I was thinking about coming up with a summary of the history of it, and you're literally giving it right here. I also want to encourage everybody to watch how you responded to this question. This is when I knew that you were definitely on point and firing on all cylinders that morning. So here we go.
Correct. I would agree to it in the context that the elected officials in City Hall, namely councilmen who have been there to the tune to 20 to 30 years, are unwilling to allow the citizens to have a vote on retroactive term limits. Boom. They are actively trying to prevent that. And this resolution that you have before you, seeking to put this charter amendment, that all is spawned as a result of the citizens taking matters in their own hands to try to get a ballot initiative with retroactivity on the ballot. That is the reason why we're here.
You could have just dropped the mic right there, basically.
It was not like that was a challenge to say, because it's the truth. It's the God's honest truth. They know it. We know it. Just somebody needed to say it. And,
and y'all, I got to say, not to poison the well, but y'all will see here in just a little bit when Richard Ray is talking and gets hit with a couple of questions. He does a little stumbling, and that tells us that he's not necessarily telling the truth. like you said, you were able to rattle all that off because it's the truth and what has actually transpired.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Carry on.
Okay, go ahead with your other points. I just wanted to make
Yeah,
that clear.
so the first petition that we did was in the spring of 2023, and it was certified, we submitted it, the language is clear that the city council shall submit it to a vote of the people, but they didn't. They sued, we got into court, and they sought to invalidate it on a technicality. The technicality being that the state statute requires that the year of birth be on the document. Although, when we started the petition, we sought the guidance of the Secretary of State's office as well as our Registrar of Voters, who told us that if you include the voter ID number on the petition, that has all of the required prerequisite information, including the date of birth, address, voting, everything. It goes above and beyond. I went to district court. District judge said, I have to have a strict interpretation of the law. It says the year of birth has to be on there. So we said, rather than fight it any further, we don't want to waste any more taxpayer dollars.
Boom.
We will just go do the petition again. So we immediately started up the process of doing a second petition. And we were on our way in the fall of 2023, getting that done. Then the elected officials, the councilmen who don't want to have retroactivity, sought to convene a charter commission. And the intent of that charter commission, and I'm going to say in my opinion, was to thwart the will of the people in the petition, and they were going to seek to have a charter amendment on the same ballot with the people's petition if it made it through the process and we got the prerequisite signatures again. So that was Ordinance 154 of 2023 that passed on December 5th. The second petition, we completed it. We had it certified. We submitted it. Again, the shall language was ignored. And I would point out that at the city council meetings, the city attorney, Charles Jacobs of Bossier City, advised the city council that by his judgment, the second petition is unflawed, no flaw whatsoever, and that they are bound to send it to a vote of the people. They refused and refused and refused multiple times as the mayor put it forward. So we filed a writ of mandamus, to which Mr. Crockett was referring to momentarily ago. We got a ruling from the district court judge in the 26 JDC ordering the city to put it on the ballot. Immediately, they appealed to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and it is being held up.
I got to pause right there because I posted a screenshot of Richard Ray's quote to that, where he tries to allude to the fact that our side, all of us and all of you watching and supporting term limits have been the litigious ones.
I'm not laughing at that.
What are you laughing at?
That's not where I'm going. I'm laughing at Jeff Sadow. He's taking shots at me.
Oh, well, let's put that up on the screen. Gotta have a little comic relief.
He works for LSUS. Is he not into renewable energy? I mean, this is a solar power. I'm going to stop.
Hey, the jacket worked. It worked. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. This guy knows what he's talking about.
I've seen that crazy guy somewhere. Here we go.
In the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, just long enough to prevent it from going on the December 7th ballot, and missing the window. So the Charter Commission inexplicably suddenly started jumping through hoops to complete their process so that they could seek to try to make this December 7th ballot. And October 5th, they reconvened for an additional vote. And you have to understand, throughout their process, the assistant city attorney said that we're not bound by open meeting rules. There was a lot of questions regarding that. And at one point, in fact, they were to the point of having meetings where we were having silent votes, paper ballots, that, it was secret ballots. Complaints were filed to the Attorney General's office, and I don't think that that has been ruled on or action taken on it yet, but the Charter Commission voluntarily on October 5th reconvened to rescind actions taken in all the previous meetings and then reappoint members again to fill those, and as well vote on proposed charter amendments.
So I just want to give you some more credit while I'm blowing your head up tonight in craziness, that you did a good job of explaining that and making sure that you explained that the complaints had been filed, and out of an abundance of caution, basically, we had the Groundhog Day meeting. So good job on explaining that.
When you're freaking crazy, there's no telling what'll come out of your mouth. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, here we go.
So on October 5th, they voted for measures to send to the council to conclude the business of the Charter Commission, and they voted by unanimously to send them. I'm not going to get into what those were all. That's for another day. So the council at a regular council meeting on October the 8th have not received the revisions, the charter revisions, and they proposed to change the agenda to vote on the proposed recommendations from the charter. And in the course of the council meeting, the council president asked, when they're seeking to change the agenda, asked, when will we receive those revisions?
He clearly said
to
it.
which the Charter Commission chairman responded, in a few minutes. They acknowledged that they had not received them. The point of that is that on October the 8th, that was 61 days prior to this December 7th election. So a vote was taken to the resolution that I think you guys have in front of you now, to which it failed, wasn't passed. Then the council president called a special meeting on October the 9th to be held on October the 10th.
All right, I'm going to pause right there. And remember, folks, the reason that they had to call that special election was because Brian Hammonds stood on his principles and voted no to add it to the agenda at the prior meeting, and so they couldn't even vote on it. Thus, it basically failed. It didn't get anywhere. All right, here we go.
Wherein they then passed this resolution that you have in front of you now.
So to that point, you're saying that even the resolution failed
The first
yes,
time
sir.
at the
But
61
it
day mark.
subsequently
Now-
passed.
Now I want to stop that, and I want to say that the resolution didn't fail. It was adding it to the agenda. That is actually technically what failed, because there wasn't a vote on the
Well,
resolution.
it
There was
failed
a
to
vote
happen.
on adding. Yeah. So, while I was kind of on point, I was off point on that. And the bond attorney points that out later, and Richard Ray sees on that as well too. And I would concede that they were correct.
Sort of. I would concede they're somewhat correct, but that's splitting hairs. Here we go.
It passed on the 10th at the 59 day mark.
Right.
And so at both junctures, and even still to this day, the revisions submitted by the Charter Commission to the council have not been publicized. The public has not had an opportunity to see those revisions.
Do you know when those revisions, they published something during the meeting? I think Richard Ray was back there desperately texting the IT department to get those damn things published.
Well, what is the definition of published?
Right. They weren't published in the official journal.
Oh, wait a minute. An official journal? What are you talking about? What is an official journal? What is published? What is an official journal?
Here, newsflash for everybody. Being published on the websites doesn't count legally. Has pretty much not much bearing at all. It's in the official journal of record, which for the Bossier City Council is the Bossier Press Tribune. Is that correct?
Well, I would say that, okay, everybody, maybe go to the Bossier City website right now and search up Bossier City Charter Commission, and you'll see there's a splash page on the Bossier City website, and you would go and you will see a link to potentially a charter amendment page with red lines and what have you. But what I would challenge each of you to tell me is when, question mark, when was that posted? And I also would ask you to tell me, is that, prove to me, show me how, when, what that was submitted, if that was in fact what was submitted to the council. Show it to me. How do you know that what that link, show me how that was submitted to the council, or that was what's submitted? Prove it to me. I want to see how that was.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can.
Well, if you remember correctly, there was some discussion at one of the Charter Commission meetings about how that process would work mechanically. Like, I think it was Vicky, maybe it was Sandra, I can't remember for sure, but asked literally, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but how do we get this submitted? And Richard Ray came up with some convoluted deal. Oh, basically, don't worry about it. We'll do this, and us lawyers will take care of it. I'm putting words
But
in his
hold
mouth.
up. And if we need to, and I don't mind if anyone wants to challenge us, even elected officials that are trying to defend their position, if you feel comfortable, if you want to, we won't acknowledge you. You can message me. And if you want to challenge us, I will post your challenge, and I won't say your name. You can post your challenge and we will debate you without saying who you are if you want to.
Look, they can, if they really have some kahunas, they can put in the comments, because I can see who is and isn't watching the show.
Oh, I don't care about that. But here's the thing. We can show the video, because in that video, Richard Ray, the assistant city attorney, goes on to tell about the process and publication. He talks about the official journal. Right. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's more than one official journal. Maybe there's one method of publication. I think the city charter, in fact, the original document, I think it addresses what publication actually is. But we're kind of getting off a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's get back on task here.
Okay, here we go.
There were revisions through the process, but the final product that the Charter Commission sent, the public's not had an opportunity to see it. That's of consequence, because in the ordinance of 154 of 2023, founding the Charter Commission to make amendments, it clearly delineates that it has to be publicized, and it also delineates that an election can't be called for earlier than 60 days. We're past 60 days, and it's not been publicized still to this date right now. So, and I'm going to go a little deeper. Therefore, I request this body declare the request for an election by the City of Bossier to the Louisiana Bond Commission to be absolutely null pursuant to Article 2030 of the Louisiana Civil Code on the following grounds. The request for an election was made in violation of mandatory procedures set forth in Bossier City Ordinance 154 of 2023. Specifically, the City of Bossier failed to publicize charter recommendations before calling for an election no earlier than 60 days following publication on the recommendations, and to date, the publications still haven't been made. For the foregoing reasons, we respectfully request the Bond Commission render this request absolutely null. Bossier City Ordinance 154 of 2023 reads in part as follows, and I'm going to read the specific line that you guys would be concerned with.
The City Council shall not alter or change the recommendations of the Charter Review Commission and shall call for an election for the citizens to adopt or reject the recommended revisions at the next election allowed by Louisiana law by no earlier than 60 days following publication of the recommendations. It's clear, 60 days. They have not met that standard, and they still have not publicized it to the public. Subsequently, the commission should know that as of this morning, a suit was filed in the 26 JDC seeking a temporary restraining order and preliminary and permanent injunction. There's no justified public necessity to hold an election in violation of public policy and municipal law. If approved, this election will unnecessarily cause harm to the citizens of Bossier City. In closing, we request this body defer or deny the resolution until compliance with the Bossier City Ordinance 154 of 2023 is met. Additionally, we would request production at this ad hoc meeting of the certified resolution, approval parameter form, SBC 017, and the plan of government change to include applicable sections of current plan and proposed plan that are required to be submitted to this body before you can approve this.
Let me ask both of you this question. It's really an opinion question. So the other side suggests, well, if this goes on the ballot in December and it's passed without retroactivity, that you can always submit another one that would include retroactivity. That could change and revise that at a future date. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, that is fraught with problems. One thing, there's a restriction that
Good
you can't
answer.
change something within 6 months. So then when if we win in court and it's ordered that they put it on the ballot, you can't do it immediately. We feel like that's an infringement on our rights. And basically you can't do something right to fix their wrong.
Good
If they
statement.
violated the 60 days, that's a violation of Bossier City's charter. That's in the charter, plus it's in the ordinance that they passed. So I think that's one thing that can happen, but it's not absolutely certain that, whether our change that referred to the previous charter would apply to the new charter. We can't know that without going through some other legal battle. What's happening in Bossier City in politics there is they continue to challenge us. Yes, we're going to vote the way that we want to vote. They violate the charter repeatedly on this and other issues. And then they go to the people, and the only way for us to find remedy is to sue the city. It's hurting Bossier City. As I've concluded a while ago, they've spent over $500,000 in 1 year on legal battles on a city that has about 70,000 people who live in the city. It's hurting Bossier City.
All right. What about you, Mr.
No,
Lowe?
wait a minute.
To that point, I've heard
Let me
that.
stop it.
Yeah, you may have to go back a little bit, but so Colonel Crockett just said they spent $500,000 on fighting term limits.
No, that's not exactly what he said. Hold
Wait
up.
a minute, isn't that what he just said?
Well, hold up. Let's back up because it's fun having this transcription right here. He said they have spent, let me back up. Bear with us just a second, folks. We appreciate everybody watching. He said, and I quote, "It's hurting Bossier City as I've concluded a while ago. They've spent over $500,000 in 1 year on legal battles on a city that has about 70,000 people who live in the city."
Oh, well, wait a minute. So he didn't say it was about term limits.
No, he did not.
Oh.
Words matter. Remember,
Well, wait a minute.
when
Why do I
Louisa
think-
Richard Ray tells us all the time, words matter.
Why do I think he said it about term limits? For some reason, I'm thinking that. I don't understand why I'm thinking that.
Because that blustering piece of work, Richard Ray, of an attorney, brings that up in a little while, as if it even matters.
Oh, okay. So
But
I'm jumping ahead.
at that point, he was struggling and starting to sweat a little bit. So we'll see. All right, here we go.
Okay.
And the charter. I would
Remedy is to sue the city. It's hurting Bossier City. As I've concluded a while ago, they've spent over $500,000 in 1 year on legal battles on a city that has about 70,000 people who live in the city. It's hurting Bossier City.
All right, what about you, Mr. Lowry?
To that point, I've heard that argument, and I heard it recently at the Bossier City Council by the city attorney's office in Bossier, and they allege that, this won't impede the people's petition when it comes out of the 26 JDC here in November, and that could then go on a ballot. It could amend the charter. I would point to, but what they don't tell everyone in the public is that the current charter, section 2107, reads as follows: results of the election. If a majority of the votes cast on any proposed charter or amendment shall be in favor thereof, it shall be adopted, and the charter shall be amended accordingly as of the date of such election, unless the proposed amendment provides for a later date. Provided, however, that if two or more proposed amendments are submitted at the same election, the terms of which conflict with one another, and each receives a majority of votes cast thereon, that amendment shall be deemed adopted, which receives the largest number of votes. What's going to happen is once they get this ballot initiative on, they will have created a new charter, a wholly new charter. The people's petition, when it comes along, it will have been to amend an old charter. And they say it could then be applied. That's inaccurate. It will not do that. I contend that is an attempt to mislead the public. I believe that these proposals are both misleading this bond commission as well as the citizens of Bossier City, and it should be deferred until the courts decide both issues. The pending litigation that was filed this morning, as well as the litigation regarding the people's petition that will be resolved by the 26th or the Second Circuit in November.
May I add one thing? It was stated very briefly.
Do what?
I was going to say, and jump in here. I mean, this bald-headed cat, I got to tell you, he's freaking nuts. Anyway.
Duke's Crazy Show.
Yeah. So the amending the new charter, and so we've heard at the council meetings, and for those of you watching, you're paying attention. I mean, I'm not going to discount. They say that the people's petition, if it comes out, it could then apply. I'm going to show y'all here in just a minute. If y'all are still wanting to hang in here and y'all are still there, we'll go through it and we'll show you in the existing charter the language that pertains to this. They are saying that it would apply. I'm saying that that's BS, that it will not apply. I think that it comes down to an opinion. And I think that when the city attorney and the assistant city attorney say that the people's petition would be able to amend a charter that was passed if this went through, I think they're saying that that from a position of it's their opinion.
Well,
but what they don't say is that they also have the opinion that it would be able to be challenged.
Sure, they're going to sue.
It's lawyer speak. And then if it was challenged, what they don't tell you is that if it was challenged, what would you fall back to make the determination? And you would have to fall back to something within the charter that addresses or what most closely addresses that particular issue. And what I would say is that there's something in the charter that does address that issue. And I just read it, and Richard Ray has said, the assistant city attorney, he has said in this conversation about whether we would have a new charter or we will have an old charter amended and revised and all this back and forth. And those of you that have followed this, that, they've tried to have their cake and eat it too, tried to have it both ways. And the bottom line is at the end of the day, you're going to have a new charter that will not have term limits. It has the definition of how to get elected. It says that you'll be, in fact, it says you will be a mayor or a council will have the ability to be reelected, period. That's a determination of what the qualifications are, that if you ran once, you'd be able to run again. Then you got the Second Amendment that says, you know, two, 3 terms, whatever, you have to sit out one, then you run again.
Right.
That's another definition. Then the People's Petition comes out and it's saying 3 terms and you're done forever after that. But that was based off of a charter that had certain provisions in the past, but that charter is no longer
No
in effect.
longer
A new
exists.
charter is in effect.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't take that at face value, and that there's not going to be a legal check. I don't buy that.
Yeah,
It's
they've
BS.
already been litigious. We know that, and if you try to yank the power rug out from under them, they're going to use that as grounds for a lawsuit. They've already proven that. The only reason that the suit was filed by Cassie Rogers was because there was no other option. I mean, they were literally ignoring the law, and that was a writ of mandamus to order them to do something. All right. Let's see what. Let's continue on because the Colonel's got a good point here about the stats in case y'all don't know them.
Yep.
The bond commission, or not the bond commission, the Bossier City Charter Commission has an 18-month window to conclude its tasks. That does not end until June timeframe next year. There is no rush for them to put this on the ballot right now, except to try to find some way to convolute the issue of whether retroactivity is going to be applied or not. The rush was because we were going to get this through the courts, possibly. We feel like that this was for nefarious purposes.
Okay.
Very good point, Colonel.
All right. Any other comments? If not, and I don't have any other white cards. Anyone else want to speak on the matter? Okay.
May I just make one more quick comment because it just came to mind? I just want you to know that this issue has been polled in Bossier City.
Colonel wants to say something else?
Surely not. He never misses an opportunity. Right.
Love you, Colonel.
And anywhere, district to district, anywhere between 70 to 80+% of people in every district support the retroactivity term limits that we've already proposed.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, you're excused, and we've got some more.
And I got to give Fleming credit here. He does a good job of conducting this meeting and asking, pertinent questions and allowing people to speak.
No doubt.
All right, here we go. Let's get the lawyers up.
Your role.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna set the stage. Obviously, y'all know Richard Ray. Look, I like Richard Ray. I mean,
yeah, personally, he's nice.
I got to tell you, I had a discussion with somebody, and to the lawyers out there, I mean, you guys, you should take what I'm going to say as a compliment, because I don't know how you can argue and fight, as a lawyer. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just one of those things. I mean, because to me, if I'm opposed to you and we're fighting, I mean, like, I don't care until you're dead. There's no way I can, at the end of this, go have a cup of coffee with you and sit down and then be pals. I don't know how you do it. I don't get it. But these guys, I mean, I guess it's what they train you to. I mean, I guess that's the part of law school. They train you to, okay, you can diametrically oppose each other. You're fighting for your client's best interests, and you can hate each other's guts, and then you can immediately flip that switch and then I can't do that. I don't know how they do it. I don't get it. And I like Richard. I do, but I'm diametrically opposed to what he's trying to do. And I don't know how that works. I don't get it. I do not get it.
I agree with you, and I'm the same way. I mean, if we're on the opposite sides of the fence on something like this, we're on the opposite sides of the fence. I mean, we can disagree on a lot of things, but there are certain core issues that we can't. And Miss Ruth Pope Johnson says, I disagree on Richard Ray. I want you to know that at the 38-minute mark of this video, Miss Ruth, you may want to pay close attention to that. I think I'm going to get to it, but Richard Ray mentions the Supreme Court in this video. And I am putting together the other video that I'm going to release as a little standalone, 1 or 2 minute video on bossierwatch. All right, here we go. So let's listen to the sleaze speak. I mean, lawyer speak.
Sure. Good morning, Dr. Fleming and members of the ad hoc committee. My name is Richard Ray. I serve as the Assistant City Attorney for the City of Bossier City.
Good morning, Brennan Black with Foley and Udell. We are bond counsel to the city and are assisting them with this election.
Here we go. I'm going to speed him
so,
up
Mr. Treasurer, if I could start, I'd certainly appreciate your comments earlier. This is not a legal forum, and we are not here to debate matters of interpretation of the charter. If I could just refute a couple of the points that were made earlier that I think are pertinent to the application that is before you this morning. There was a statement that this should have been done by ordinance, not by resolution. What the charter actually requires is that proposed amendments to the charter be by ordinance. It does not say that resolutions calling elections are impermissible. That is what this is. The charter does not say that calling an election has to be by ordinance, nor to my knowledge does any home rule charter in this state. So that is the first point. That ordinance also proposing amendments, I think, has been adopted in accordance with Section 21.01 when they established the Charter Review Commission. And what the charter says is that any proposed amendments must come by petition or by recommended changes from the commission, which is what we are addressing here today. Also, with respect to the resolution, there was a comment that that resolution failed the first time around, which is also incorrect. There was no vote on the resolution itself. The vote was to amend the posted agenda for that meeting date.
He's right there.
So when the resolution...
He's technically right, but they were going to try to pass that resolution, and it failed to pass or failed to even be heard because they didn't get a unanimous vote. So he's technically correct, but he's parsing his words here. He's trying to make the best of what he can.
Well, and additionally, another point, there's also a provision in the charter that says that regardless, and there's a specific ordinance addressing it, that you have to have prior notice to pass a resolution in a meeting.
Right.
Meaning that, I mean, look, oops, almost.
Don't go that far yet. We got to save that surprise.
But there's a part of the charter that says that in a resolution, it has to be, when you do the announcement of the meeting, it has to be ahead of time. You can't just change the agenda and add it. I stop right there. I'll stop.
Okay. And yes, Val, he is the Baton Rouge lawyer. That's Brennan Black. And I'm sure he's paid well. All right, here we go.
No. Hold up. Let's not let this get sideways here. That the Queen hired. No. Okay. Foley and Jadell, they are a law firm out of Baton Rouge that they specialize in doing the bond
this sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the language stuff. That's what they do is they form all that crap up. They work for a lot of different governmental entities across the state of Louisiana. So I'm not going to condemn them as being bad guys simply because they're sitting at the table with Richard Ray. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, the slime doesn't go by osmosis over there to him necessarily. All right, anyway, here we go.
Was actually properly on the agenda for the special meeting. It was adopted unanimously by all members present. So just one point of clarification there.
Okay, but I'm going to point out something, what he said right there. And it's not that he doesn't have to, but adopted by all members present unanimously. y'all all forget, and everybody seems to let it slip away, that the city charter calls for this, and petitions shall, have we heard that word before? Shall be, you it says what your job is. Your job is shall send it to a vote of the people. But again, he doesn't say, but in Bossier City, the elected officials only recognize the word shall when it's what they want. The only ones, and this is the whip side of that, the only ones that recognize the word shall is obviously, and you, Rex, you can take a shot at me if you want, is Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds. They're the only ones that apply the word in its proper context.
No, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. All right, so here's the thing. I'm going to play Richard Ray at 1.25 times speed so that we can try to get through this before midnight. Here we go.
Follow up on some of Mr. Black's points. It's my understanding that the only thing that this body needs is a resolution calling for an election. And as Mr. Black said, due to the fact that there have been efforts since May of this year to derail and to slow the Charter Review Commission.
I want to point out that that is one thing he's telling the truth about. We absolutely were having effort, or putting together efforts, all of us, to slow down and derail the Charter Commission process. That's no secret.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, when you're conducting secret ballot votes, I mean,
of course we're going to try to derail it, Richard Ray.
What the hell do you think? I mean, you're only trying, you and your clients are trying to derail the public and 3,000 plus citizens of Bossier. I mean, yeah.
He didn't thank us for giving him an extra meeting with that do-over from the AG complaint for the Viva Voce save. He should have thanked us. We gave him an extra meeting. We gave him a do-over. All right, here we go.
I am confident we've gave him something tonight to justify taking another action. There's no doubt about it, and we don't get any credit for that.
Right.
Process led by people that, for the most part, like the two that are here today, that don't live in Bossier City.
Wait, I got to stop again. Did y'all catch that? Did you know, Duke, that you don't live in Bossier City?
Who knew?
Oh. And neither does the Colonel. Oh, but does it matter legally? No. All right, here we go.
Well, wait a minute. If I was a Haitian, would that improve my standing?
Well, yeah,
because they wouldn't
going into Darby's district.
If I was a Haitian, they wouldn't want to talk about it, right?
Oh, of course not. No, they kick you out of the meeting. Have the marshals escort you out.
I mean, but additionally, since being a citizen is so important, I'm just curious. What kind of emphasis do you all think that they placed on ensuring that, members of the Charter Commission were representatives of the district of each councilman that was appointed? Was that of importance?
Yeah. Did you hear him mention that here? No. All right, here we go.
Oh, no. Some districts went unrepresented.
Yeah.
They don't live in Bossier City. And there was a meeting that was had not on October the 5th, that was a Saturday, it was Friday, October the 4th. That was after the publication of the agenda for the Bossier City Council for last Tuesday, October the 8th. And so we asked the City Council to add to the agenda a resolution calling for the election and an ordinance that is required under our charter, but that is not required for the election to be called. The resolution, there were only 5 members of the City Council present during that meeting. We have 7. One of the members declined to add it to the agenda. So because it was not unanimous, it was not added to the agenda. That's why there was a special meeting 2 days later with an agenda properly posted, timely posted, and it passed. There was one member of the City Council that voted against it, but it did pass with the requisite number of votes. It was 4-1 that day, the resolution. But it's notable.
You gotta stop. This is killing me. And so Ferris says, he says, Baton Rouge return to live in the Bossier City. I didn't think about that. I should immediately stood up and say, well, wait a minute. His ass don't live in Bossier City. He needs to go.
Let's see. Does Richard Ray actually live in the city limits?
You know, at one time, I know for a fact that he didn't, unless, I mean, now with this improvement where he can be a assistant district attorney and the Bossier City assistant attorney, but they have a small office. He articulates that here in a minute, and not much help, and they're have their backs against the wall and all, except for, you know, the 500,000 in outside legal expenses that apparently is a questionable issue. No, I don't think he lives in the city. I don't think he does. In fact, I don't think either of those two gentlemen right there live in the city.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We can find that out. Here we go.
That there was an ordinance that was unanimously added to the Tuesday, October 8th meeting, and it passed unanimously. And two members of the council were not present. They have publicly stated that they are in favor of it. And when we have a meeting on October the 22nd, I fully expect that the ordinance that is just required under our charter will pass. There are certainly the votes to be there, and it will pass. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation that has been clearly spread in an effort to derail a process that is provided in our city charter. And we have not had revisions to our city charter since 2005. It's been almost 20 years, and it's been long overdue. And yet,
we might argue that it's been done improperly over 20 years.
Yeah, but I just want to say you're welcome. We forced the city to start taking action to try to bring things up to speed since 2005.
Oh, Mr. Fleming drags that out of him here in just a minute.
You're welcome, Richard, and Mayor and Council. Y'all are welcome. I mean, you could have done it on your own, but I mean, we did it for you. Okay.
Here we go.
Yes, there are a lot of changes that were proposed in an amended and restated charter that we would like to put to the voters of Bossier City. I serve as the assistant city attorney. We are a staff of, we have a full-time city attorney and a part-time assistant city attorney. I'm that. We're a fairly large city, but we have a very small legal staff. The city attorney was out on a medical leave due to a serious medical condition. On the Charter Review Commission, each of the 7 council members get to appoint a member. They have to be an elector that lives in Bossier City. They each appointed a person, and the mayor appointed 2. The meetings began in January, and they methodically worked through meetings. They had several town hall meetings. They had several workshops. I was at every meeting, with the exception of we had one on April the 8th, and my family wanted to go see the eclipse. So,
hey, did you know that Richard Ray got to go see the eclipse?
You know, I am glad that he was able to go to see the eclipse. I hope that it reinvigorated him to defend the lawlessness in Bossier City. I hope it helped him. I really do. I didn't see the eclipse. I'm jealous of him, actually.
Here we go.
So we left to go see that. Every single one of them, I was at the meetings. There was a lot of work done by people who live in Bossier City, who vote in Bossier City, who care about Bossier City, and who have desperately want to put this to the voters. And it will go to the voters at some point. We think it's better to be there on December the 7th. They feel that there is this effort to slow it down. I believe that all that does is make this worse. Procedurally, everything has been done correctly by a duly impaneled.
He couldn't articulate why, though.
It proposes to put.
He said duly. Go back. He said duly impaneled. You got to see this. Yeah. He said duly impaneled Charter Review Commission.
Well, I would beg to differ, because if the ethics complaint against Preston Freedley, and I like Preston, but if the ethics complaint against Preston has merit, it was not duly impaneled. It was impaneled illegally under the guidance of, well, Richard Ray. Can I put it any more plainly than that?
I got nothing. Keep rolling. Duly impaneled Charter Commission. Okay. Well, we'll see about that here in a minute.
It proposes to put 3 things on the ballot in December: an amended and restated charter.
Whoa!
A proposal for term limits, which would
what? Amended and restated charter.
I got to be conservative here. He said 3 things on the ballot. Okay, got it.
Yep, y'all see that right there. Right there.
Keep rolling.
3 things on the ballot in December: an amended and restated charter, a proposal for term limits, which would either amend the existing charter or the amended and restated charter that would impose prospective term limits on our city council. And then a third proposal, which would impose a prospective 3-term limit on our mayor. Either it would amend the existing charter or the amended and restated charter if it's passed. All of that seems to be better done in December, especially knowing the fact that this other effort that has nothing to do with what we're here today on, what they termed the People's Petition, is tied up in the courts where they took it.
Do you see that?
Wait.
Now, technically, he's correct.
Why did you take it there?
Yeah. Dang you, Cassie.
Why did you? Colonel?
Yeah.
Why did y'all take it there?
Yeah.
You asshats. Why did you do that?
It's all y'all's fault.
Why did you just not let them break the law in Bossier City and ignore their responsibilities as an elected official? Why did you do that?
Yeah. Shame on y'all. Here we go.
Where they took it. But if it comes out of the Second Circuit or the Louisiana Supreme Court and it's able to be put on a ballot, then it can be put on a ballot in the future. These things that they're telling you that we can't have these things, we can't have two.
Gotta stop.
Back.
Richard Ray the Chipmunk talks fast.
I have heard rumor of this rap song that talks about backing up, and you got to back up. You got to keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Back. Just keep something about Supreme Court.
Yeah.
What?
Wait. Hey, paging Ruth Pope Johnston. Paging Ruth Pope Johnston. There's your deal right there.
I'm thinking that, was it at a council meeting where Ruth Pope Johnson got up there and asked a question or made a statement, something to the effect of regarding the Supreme Court, and to which Richard Ray accused her of being a liar, and yet Richard Ray enunciates when it gets out of the Louisiana Supreme Court here, or infers that when it gets out of the, does he have a rabbit in his pocket?
I'm
missing something.
Let me just give y'all a little hint. That's not the only time he said Louisiana Supreme Court. It's just simply not. Ruth Pope was pretty much correct at that meeting, and trust me, we're going to make that very public before long. But there it is right there. So this is after the meeting with Ruth Pope, but seeing his statement right there, would you tend to believe the weasel lawyer Richard Ray, or would you believe Miss Ruth Pope Johnston? Which one? I'm not siding with the weasel. Here we go.
And it's able to be put on a ballot, then it can be put on a ballot in the future. These things that they're telling you that we can't have these things, we can't have 2 amendments within 6 months. I could cite you in the charter where that's incorrect. That just means that there can't be 2 citizens petitions within 6 months. There's nothing prohibiting a time limit of what we could do here. And I can tell you that in 2004, a city charter was proposed to the city voters of Bossier City. It was an amended and restated charter. It had in it a proposed 2.75% yearly increase in water rates. It failed, probably because of that. In 2005, they came back and did another amended and restated charter without it, and it passed. And it's the charter that we've been acting under for nearly 20 years.
Let me interrupt you for a moment. And
here we go. This is about where it starts to get good.
Because this is all procedure stuff.
I'm noticing, wait a minute, back up a second. Back up just a couple of seconds. Roll back just a second. I just noticed something. Wait a minute. Look right there. Did you see that?
That look of oh shit?
No, go forward.
Pardon my phrase.
Go forward and back a couple of frames, if you can.
I'm going forward, frame by frame.
Watch. Keep going. Oh, you see that?
Oh, yep. He's doing a little. He's about to do some more adjusting too.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I think there's something there.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. All right.
Because this is all procedure stuff. The bond commission recognizes that
that this resolution has met all of the technical specifications. That's not really a matter of debate here. However, there is a lot of issues, apparently controversial issues, having to do with what happened back in Bossier City, and as recently as today, a TRO was requested. It's not been signed. But let me ask you this: who actually initiated the movement to have term limits for the city council?
Well, I would argue, Dr. Fleming, that was initiated by, there were 3 individuals that ran for city council on the issue of enacting term limits because Bossier City's never had it, and Mayor Chandler, who was elected in March of 2021.
But after they were elected, did they initiate, did they
This
begin
is
a process or anything after they were elected? Everybody says they want term limits before they're elected. Let's just get that out there.
This is awesome.
You've got members of Congress who all the time say that they
cold hard facts, baby.
Oh yeah, yeah. And look,
hard facts.
Dr. Fleming even drags himself into this. Hold on.
want term limits and they'll only serve 3 terms and all of that. But it's kind of funny how they forget that once they're elected. So I'll say in all
wait.
Disclosure here, I have no term limits as treasurer. I have no problem if the legislature wants to pass them prospectively or retrospectively. I have no problem with that at all.
It was at that point I knew we had won.
I got to tell you, I mean, freaking Mr. Smith came home from Washington to enforce good government in Louisiana.
Absolutely.
That's what happened right here. That's what happened right here.
All right, let's let him finish because this is awesome.
So anyway, again, my question is, who actually initiated the movement to have term limits?
Well, I believe that the voters of Bossier City did when they elected individuals who ran on several things, including that, and 2 of those members.
And what did they, when they did that? I mean, you're saying that through their vote they did that, right?
I believe
but as far as an actual administrative move, was there anything done by them?
It was an administrative move by 2 of the council members to begin the process of a charter review commission, but it takes 4 votes on our city council to initiate anything, and so they didn't have the votes.
So I think.
And so this is where John Fleming is fixing to drag him. Here we go.
I think it'd be safe to say that as a whole, the city council was not eager to go down this road.
Well, probably not. But there was the first petition that was mentioned that
Wait a minute.
That had a
probably not. Are you freaking kidding me? Probably not.
Yeah.
Come on, Richard.
John Fleming has just reached over there to the collar of Richard Ray and begun the process of dragging. Politely, I may add.
Richard, probably not. Really? You should have tapped out, bro, right then. You should have just said,
I give up.
Okay.
I'm going north. All right, here we go.
Fatal flaw in it. That was initiated, or that was brought to the city in July of 2023. In August of 2023, the City Council began the process of initiating a Charter Review Commission, which culminated in the recommendation.
And as I understand it, the Charter Commission, which I guess is appointed by the City Council itself, right? Didn't you tell me that?
Each City Council member gets...
So the elected people who are affected by this would be the ones who would actually create this commission.
Correct.
And that is the point where he took Richard Ray's collar and dragged him to the floor and started pulling him across the room.
And this can be done either through petition or through this commission, correct? Isn't that what you told me before?
Well, you can amend the charter either through petition or through a Charter Review Commission. What's before you today is the effort of the Charter Review Commission.
Okay. So why did they went out and not the petitioners? Why didn't y'all move on theirs instead of the commission?
Well, with all due respect, Dr. Fleming, I represent 7 council members and a mayor, all of elected. Not all of them are on the same page. When you say, why didn't y'all? I don't represent any specific position. I'm here today because I
didn't say y'all. There's basically 2 methods.
Correct.
One is the commission, and one is the petition. Commission and the petition, they rhyme. So it could have been either one. Why was it the commission and not the petition?
Well, the reason you have the commission here is because it's met all the process. You don't have the petition because they're in court where they went,
Where Cassie Rogers went. Shame on you, Cassie.
That gum Cassie Rogers. You made them vote against following the legal terminology of shall so many times because they had the foresight that you were going to sue. They knew, so they said, you know what? We're not going to abide by shall because we think Cassie Rogers is going to come out of the woodwork and sue us. With a writ of mandamus. They made
this is a master class in a lying, kicking and screaming weasel of a lawyer getting dragged across the parking lot, so to speak, by John Fleming. Here we go.
But okay, no, wait a minute, stop. I gotta correct you, and I gotta stop here because just saying John Fleming, that is insulting. You're insulting the man.
Okay.
What you need to be saying is a public servant, because there is a difference between just saying a man's name and saying a true public servant, because a public servant understands, has paid attention to the issues and recognize what's up or what's down. And in this case right here, John Fleming is recognizing the difference between politics and between the will of the people. And I don't give a damn what any of y'all think. That man right there has grabbed the mantle of this is about what the will of the people, regardless of what the political class wants or what's in the best interest of a political career or whatever. That man right there, he gets it. He freaking gets it. And he is doing your bidding.
I gladly stand corrected on that. And I don't say that too often. So you are correct. All right, here we go.
It shows the route of litigation, and they're there.
Well, didn't they initiate this and then because they were thwarted in some way, didn't get to move forward? Is that my understanding?
I'm sure that would be their argument, but they filed a mandamus petition, and they are in the courts.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and finish what you were going to say. I apologize for interrupting.
No.
They filed a mandamus because your clients wouldn't do what they were elected to do, their legal obligation, because they chose to not do it.
And when the judge ordered them, when Judge Parker self ordered the city council to do this, what did the city do? Filed a suspensive appeal. So technically, it's the city's fault it's still in the courts. So we'll have to let Cassie off the hook for this part. Here we go.
I'm just dying to know. Do y'all think it was Cassie and the term limits people? Or do you think it was the lawyers? I don't know. I mean, look, the lawyers are making $1. They don't give a damn. Let's get it into court.
This guy over here with the pen, he's going, can I just get back to my office? All right, here we go.
I would also like to say that I would ask to not be swayed by the red herring of legal expenses. I don't have a clue where they've gotten this $500,000.
You'll see that he doesn't have a clue where they've gotten the $500,000 legal expense. Hold on just a second.
I don't get that. I mean, look, Richard Ray, he doesn't have a clue with the 500. Well, how much does he think?
Well,
wait a minute.
Wait a minute. As reported by Subtle Talk from a public information request, there are the legal fees expended by Bossier City July 1st through 2023 of July 31st, 2024. The grand total is $481,851 and some change. Now, that is total legal fees, to be clear. But I highlighted the Keen Miller stuff was about $50,000, and the Wienermobile legal team was $260-something thousand.
Wait a minute. Did you say Wienermobile?
Yeah, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But wait a minute. Colonel Crockett said $500,000 on the term limit stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, he didn't. Words matter, Richard Ray. Words matter. He did not say that, and we proved it earlier.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right, because I asked that question earlier and you corrected me. You said, and you played it again. He did not say to the term limits. He said that they've spent over $500,000 in legal spend. Okay, so I think he was just making a generalization about wasteful spending on lawfare.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I'm caught up to speed.
Words do matter, Mr. Lowry. Never
Okay,
forget that.
so according to the assistant city attorney, how much money have they spent?
Let's drum roll, please.
Legal expense. It's probably closer to $5,000.
Wait a minute.
$5,000.
Wait a minute. Okay, I ain't got enough fingers to count here, but I'm pretty close. 5,000. And okay, so we know Katie Bell with the Key Miller Law Firm. Show that again. Settle talk. Show
right.
that again. Pull
Hold
that
on.
back up. He's saying 5,000. And can you zoom in there? The Key Miller Law Firm. That was they got them
50,000, not 5,000. 50,000.
He's missing numbers, but okay. All right.
Yeah. Maybe he missed a zero. He was having a stressful morning.
Look, I'm going to tell you. I mean, I acknowledge you get up there, you're in the heat of the moment, you make mistakes. It's just the way that happens. I mean, and then you got these asshats like us sitting here that are catching it, and you don't get a redo. It's not easy. It's not easy. I get it.
Right. Yeah. Here we go. All right. Jerry says his attorney looks at him and says, "No, sir, that's just for today." That is awesome.
Yeah, that is
best comment ever. Here we go.
I'm here. I mean, I'm paid on salary. I'm not outside counsel. I'm not here on an hourly basis. There's a very tiny bit of money that has been spent on this, not $500,000. That's
tiny bit.
True. And I would also like to point out this issue of that it's not been publicized. Number one, every time that the Charter Commission would make changes, we would make paper copies available. We would post them on the city's website. The city's website has a current version of the amended and restated charter. Also, we've already initiated the process. It will be, the entire amended and restated charter will be publicized 3 times in the Bossier Press Tribune, actually 4 times. It'll be on October 16th, October 23rd, October 30th, and then
wait a minute.
Oh, stop. Wait, let me back up. That's an important point there. Wasn't that your argument earlier, something about 60 days? Was I missing something there?
I'm thinking so. And if you do the math from October the 16th to December the 7th, I'm just curious, how many days is that?
And they're not talking business days.
And if you do the 23rd, and if you do the 30th, and then you do November the 6th, somehow or another, I'm thinking that's not 60 days.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So let's see, October 16th to let's let Google help us out because it's late and I'm getting tired, to December 5th. All right, hold on, folks. December 7th, that's right. December 7th, unless somebody else has already got it calculated. Help me out here. Here we go. Well, dang it. Hold on. Darn it, Google. Well, I put the wrong year in. Well, anyway, it ain't 60 days. Okay. Barry Butler says 52. Thank you, Barry.
Exactly. There you go. It's not 60 days.
No, nowhere near it. Been a long night, but thank you, Barry. All right, here we go.
It will be, and we're working with them to do a special insert in the Bossier Press so that the public will have full knowledge of what is in the amended restated charter, because we believe, and I believe
it's like he's doing you a favor. Legally, they're required to do it. It's not like he's doing this to be altruistic.
While the issue of retroactive term limits has become the hot button issue, I think the one thing we can all agree on is the Bossier City Charter is long overdue with changes that are desperately needed
That's the only factual thing pretty much that he said.
I 100% agree with him. It sucks that it had to be us, the people that motivated them to make a freaking change. Why is it that it took the citizens to make their elected officials make a change? Why is that?
Yeah. Can't imagine kicking and screaming.
Talk about that. Talk about why.
That quote, kicking and screaming, is coming up, and I didn't make that up. It was in here. Here we go.
And we don't need to get lost. That doesn't need to get lost in the mix, because those are things that need to be changed. And if we defer this, we're just creating more delay and more problems. And
what
frankly,
problems?
as I explained to the city council last Thursday, and I would reiterate, the best course of action is to put before the voters these options in December. They will either adopt them or they won't, but it's up to the voters. If whatever they do, the Charter Commission recommendations are over with. If the petition,
y'all hear that? No more Charter Commission.
And frankly, I mean, that's their prerogative. I hope they do. But if they do, it's better that they do after this new charter has been.
Oh, you heard. Look, that operative word right there. Your favorite word. New charter.
Second time he has said that in this little meeting here. It's the second time he said it. A new charter.
Yep.
Charter has been put before the people, because the last thing you want to do is I defer to Mr. Black on this, but the way they're all written, they're not compatible to be on the same ballot, and they're not compatible for the charter review proposed amendments to come after the petition amendments. So the way that this is set up, if we put these on December 7th, it's the procedurally cleanest way.
Stop. Why would y'all think charter review amendments would it would not be good for them to come after the petition amendments? Why is that? Because would the petition amendments, the people's petition, would that amend the charter such that
then their amendments can't follow suit.
Yeah, y'all think about that one. Chew on that one a little bit about what he just said. Chew about that.
Yeah.
Keep
Here we go.
So the way that this is set up, if we put these on December 7th, it's the procedurally cleanest way to do it. And again, I'll defer to Mr. Black on that.
He's like, please help me.
Sure. Yeah,
Mr.
I
Black,
think we've
please.
been sort of walking a fine line to make sure that the recommendations to amend the charter that came from the commission meet all of the charter requirements, but also meet the state requirements for propositions, right? It has to be in the form of a question. We can't be more than 200 words. So I think we've been very careful to make sure we are satisfying all of those legal requirements.
Watch Richard's expressions and watch what Richard does here in about 4 seconds. This is great.
Well, if that's all your remarks today, I'll be happy to offer any.
Watch right here. He's getting a little hot under the collar and probably about to sweat and choke at the same time.
Anyone else who would like to speak today?
Only other thing I would like to say, Dr. Fleming, if I can, is that respectfully, I believe there was a question or a request that the ad hoc commission render this effort relatively null or absolutely null. And frankly,
wait a minute, what?
You're not a court.
What are they talking about?
Absolute nullity thing.
That sounds like some damn legal crap that some attorney would raise. What the hell is he talking about? Absolutely null.
Well, I got to say that whole nullity thing was a mighty big word from somebody that's a Rhodes Scholar from Stupidville.
Why would he want to take a moment to address that? I don't understand. It just seems so complicated.
Yeah, here we go.
But let's hear what he has to say.
There's a question or a request that the ad hoc commission render this effort relatively null or absolutely null. And frankly, as you pointed out, you're not a court. That's not your role. We're here. We've complied with all of the procedural requirements the reason that we're at an ad hoc meeting is because there's been a concerted effort to slow this process. It has been difficult.
I just accidentally skipped. Hold on. All right, here, close enough. It's been difficult to get here.
Difficult to get here, but it's been difficult because of opposition that is, has been very vocal.
Wait.
It's a very small but vocal.
Very small. Now, to put this in perspective, we can assume that.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is he making a short joke?
Oh, he was calling you little.
Is he making a damn short joke?
Shame on him. What is it when you make fun of little people?
Look, you can make fun about bald headed all day long, but if you going short, I got a problem there.
Well, look, I'm short, and you're shorter than I am. But Richard Ray is making fun of little people.
I'll have you to know that I'm 5'5", and I am average height. That is a statistical fact. I mean, if you're over 5'5", if you're 5'5" to 6 foot, you're a freak.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
So here's a good comment: 3,000.
And if you're over 6 foot and you're 6 foot to 6.5, you're a super freak.
So that song, "Super Freak."
I'm just saying.
Here we go. So Richard Ray wants you to know that it's a very small group and very vocal, but very small group. 6,000 people, actually more than 6,000, signed between the two petitions. And all you people attending meetings, all of y'all watching the shows, all of that, it's just a small but vocal group. That's all y'all are. Don't worry about it. All right, here we go.
Freaking
number of people. But we've met all the procedural requirements and would ask that we be allowed to put this to the voters, because there's a lot of people in Bossier City that want this on a ballot and want to be able to vote on term limits. I believe that like I said in response to your question, what started this? I think it started in our election cycle in 2020 and 2021, when a lot of people ran on it, and the people that ran on it were elected. Clearly, the voters of Bossier City want term limits, and this is the way that the legislature has done it. This is the way that our school board did it. This is the way that every government that we can locate, that we can find, has done it. Make it prospective. Their version of term limits is retroactive, and it's a lifetime ban, and I'm not sure that that's ever been done anywhere in America. The constitutionality of it
America. It's never been done in America.
Yeah.
What the hell? What law school did he go to? I'm just curious.
Don't make me answer that.
What law school did he? It's never been done in America. There's no retroactive or lifetime ban in America. Y'all see that? Y'all in the comments. I mean, look, me and Rex, we have our opinions. What do y'all think?
Look, you've heard me say it before. Dazzle them with brilliance or baffle them with bullshit. Which do you think that Richard Ray is desperately trying to do? Is he trying to dazzle with brilliance or just baffle with BS?
I mean, look, he is doing a job. I respect that. He went to school. He is employed to seek to try to promote his his clients' interest in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But at what point does saying things that are patently false, is part of doing your job? And this sentence right here, you Rex, you did the work. You had this closed caption. You got the statement, the sentence. Their version of term limits is retroactive, and it's a lifetime ban. And I'm not sure that that's ever been done in anywhere in America. I mean, you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar of Stupidville. You don't have to be freaking two guys that do a social media show. You don't have to be an elected councilman of Bossier City to know that that's just not true. That's not true.
Yeah, I agree. But wait, there's more.
The constitutionality of it is not ripe yet until it's passed. That's a whole nother battle that would come probably at a later date. Let's put this to the people and allow them to vote on this. If their version comes later, then great. Then that amends that.
You know what?
Where was he just a few months ago about putting stuff to the vote of the people?
It's not constitutionally ripe. Okay, I want to hear the argument that it's unconstitutional to limit the president of the United States. Is Bubba Williams? Is Jeff Darby? Is Jeff Free? Is Vince Maggio? Is, the king? Are they saying that it's unconstitutional, for the president of the United States to be limited to only a couple of terms? Is that what they're saying? Are they prepared? Are they prepared to go down that road? Vince Maggio, I've had people say, you say, and you hang your hat on it that it's unconstitutional. Riddle me this to all the people and you explain. I want you to make a post and explain to people how it's unconstitutional that anybody for president should be limited. I want you to tell everybody how George Washington was crazy, like, he could have had a Crazy Duke show. I want you to tell everybody that. I want you to explain it to the people. Please, by all means, go out there and explain it. And
we'll even let you come on this show and do it.
You can have this platform. All of you, every single one of you, we'll set it up. Me and Rex won't interrupt you. You can say whatever the hell you want, but the only thing we require is you explain how it's unconstitutional for the president of the United States to be limited retroactively and for a lifetime. I want you to educate and the rest of the United States of America for the founding of this country. I want y'all all to explain it. Please, by all means, I want to learn. Please educate me.
That amends that existing charter. That's the beauty of doing this today, but I would ask that we move forward with this today.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen. And as I say, if there's anyone else that would like to speak.
John Fleming
not,
knows. John Fleming right there. He's like, how tall can you stack bullshit? He's like,
Yeah.
He's saying to himself, I had no idea you could pile shit that high. I just didn't know.
Well, they could come up with no valid reason for rushing it. None. All right, here we go.
Well, just
almost third.
On this. As I understand it, our legal discretion is either to approve this, disapprove it, or defer it. We don't, of course, have any. We don't have any room to roam on the legalities of all this. The administrative and legal responsibility to us has been met. However, probably one of the most, if not the most important right for an American citizen is under the First Amendment to petition its government. And
not in
my
Bossier
perception
City.
of this, the story, and I've heard both sides in detail, is that this initiative to limit terms came from the people, and as a result, once the movement began, politicians who were running for office got involved in it. But my concern about this is that steps were kind of reluctant at first by the city council, and that eventually they gave in to the will of the people, but
there are members, as I'm told, who've served many, many years who do not want the retroactive part of this. They'd still like to serve another 12 years, even after as many as 30 years. And I can understand where people who have a sincere belief that there should be term limits, that may be excessive to them. There's ongoing litigation on this question. And but I think, from a procedural and even kind of a moral standpoint, I have a sense that the city council was very reluctant to move forward on this and had to be dragged kicking and screaming into this process.
We didn't say that. He said it. We all know that. Kicking and screaming. So this is, Dr. Fleming doesn't live in Bossier. He may have been aware somewhat because of the news and all that of this, but he was able to take what was presented to him and immediately figure out what was really going on.
And if this goes forward as it is and it passes, I think it could block any further action, because the people of Bossier City will feel like that they have made their decision through their vote, and that would mean that there would be only prospective term limits. Now, it may be that retrospective term limits may actually be non-constitutional, but no one's made that point, so I'd assume that it's still an open question. So having said all of this, did I see another white card, by the way? Okay, good. So I want to make sure everyone has their voice here. I would ask for a motion to defer this to a later time. We have a TRO that was presented this morning that has not been signed, but we don't know whether it will be. I just think this controversy needs to be resolved by the people it affects the most, and that's the people of Bossier City. And when they're finished battling this out and coming to a solution, that they present that back to us. There's no emergency. This doesn't have to be done in December. It can be done next year if necessary. But I do think that this is an important issue. It affects the people of Bossier City. I do believe that because people do believe, voters do believe strongly now in term limits, I can see where there would be an overwhelming majority of people who feel like that it's time to implement term limits in Bossier City. So with that, I would be happy to entertain a motion.
And let's let them get through the motion, and we'll start wrapping
Okay.
it up, everybody.
I have a motion by Mr. Wood from the Secretary of State's office. Do I have a second? I have a second from Mr. Lester. Any objection? Hearing no objection, the Bond Commission will defer until this has been resolved through the legal matters. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for that. What say you, Mr. Lowry?
So what I say is to the, and look, I am one of those people that, I am critical of government. I'm critical of politicians, but I still hold out faith that there is some people that are good in government. There's some people that have good intentions. There are still, processes that are of value and that work and function correctly. And in this case, two things. One, you guys are able to see I hate to say a politician, and I won't say that. I'll say you were able to see a servant who recognizes that the will of the people supersedes everything else. It was recognized, it was applied, and, more importantly, that your voice can be heard. It is a call to action that you shouldn't sit on the sideline. You shouldn't feel like you don't have a voice or that you can't make a difference. This right here is an example. I mean, there's nothing else more powerful than seeing, your will affected. I mean, just by simply standing up and saying what you believe and saying what you think. You ain't got to be perfect. We all make mistakes. I made mistakes. Some of what I said wasn't quite right. But the point is, you know, this is the process, and it only works if you take action, you do something. Simply sitting on the sideline, not doing anything, you know how that ends up? Nothing changes.
Well,
Nothing happens.
and I'd like to say this, that you're absolutely right. So again, we encourage everybody, whenever possible, go to the meetings, even if you don't speak. Just a butt in a seat makes a statement. And we're nearly 90 people still watching at 3 hours and 24 minutes, watching us commentate on this. That in itself is a statement. And we need everybody watching to make sure and get your neighbors, get your family, get your friends involved. Share what's going on about this. Tell them to look at the regular news media, watch our show, watch the posts that we share out, share those posts out. Do all of those sorts of things, because this is an absolute team effort, and every little bit makes a difference. Even the comments, I promise you,
Oh, Rex,
they
you're just saying all
read the
you're just
comments.
you're just saying all that because we're going to make all this money doing this stupid show, this crazy show. You're just saying that because we're just out to make money, Rex.
Well, all right.
Just say the truth.
So I can say without a doubt that you and I have each spent minimum 6 to 8 hours today, just today, getting ready for this show. Not to mention you and the Colonel driving down there and your time down there. Basically, that's a whole day, so on and so forth. We're not doing this for the money. Look, I don't make any bones about it. I'm a capitalist, and I believe in everybody making money. We are not doing this show for the money. We've got some folks that are helping us out, like the Ferrises with Pelican Training, Acadiana Mortgage. Just the fact that your wife allows you the time to be able to go down all these political rabbit holes, that is a benefit to us. It takes money
Wait a
to do
minute.
this show, though.
I thought slavery was done with. You're acknowledging it.
No, it ain't over
Carry on.
yet. All
Carry
right.
on. I'm sorry, but I had to get that in there.
Yeah, so y'all can make little differences in a lot of ways. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can get monetized on the YouTube channel. Again, it's not so Duke and I can be, cool multi-millionaire YouTubers. That's not the goal. It costs us money, real money, to do this show. Gas, uh, you know, lawsuits, just everything, time, all the stuff that we do, the software. I don't use free software to do this. All that, the equipment, the cameras, the lights, blah, 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 all that stuff costs money. So we're not here to beg for money. We're here to tell you we need everybody doing whatever part that you can do. If that's just liking and commenting on a post or sharing something out, that's fine too. And if you want to donate some coffee money or buy a coffee mug, that's fine too.
The overriding point is that you see progress in what we're doing. You see that you can make a difference. We've proven it to you. The only question is whether or not you're going to be a part of that. Right. Whether or not you're going to step up and you're going to do it.
Yep.
Service before self. Some of you know where that comes from. But right. I would challenge a lot of you that don't. Think about those terms, service before self. That's where we went wrong in this country. We're trying to change it. We can make a lot of changes across all of our government. It starts at a local level, and we can grow it to a bigger level than that. But it's only if you believe that you can make a difference and you just seen that it can make a difference. Right there. Yeah. You've seen it.
And I want to kind of wrap this up. So Miss Alice, who got escorted out of the meeting by the marshals, she says, I get dejected a lot. Look, the truth is, Miss Alice, so do we. There are times when Duke and I will call each other and it's like, we may as well just hang this up. The heck with it. Are we really, truly making a difference? But you have to go through the valleys to get back up to the peaks. And sometimes when you're at your lowest point, you need to take a step back and look at the big picture. And even if you get kicked in the shins sometimes, pick yourself back up and keep trudging forward. And that's about as, as um, sappy as I can get tonight on the show.
Yeah, yeah, and you're dead on the money, Rex. And I appreciate your work on this every week. I don't take it for granted. You put in a lot of time. You have lately, and to all of you, the only reason we continue to keep doing this is because you guys keep showing up every week to listen, and you keep absorbing the material. And we intend to keep doing it so long as you're there to, hear the information, pass the information. And you know what? When you don't care no more and you don't want to hear it, I mean, I promise you, just send us a message and say you're tapping out, and we'll tap out too.
Yeah.
But we're along for the ride with you. We hope that you come along. Let's go as far as we can go. We've only got one ride in life to take. Let's take it.
We're driving off the cliff together. Here we go. All right,
Crazy
Mr.
Duke
Lowry.
Show.
The Crazy Duke Show is officially over. We appreciate everybody watching. That's it. I'm going to hit the finish button. Last word, Mr. Lowry. Tell them goodbye.
Adios. Vote for Constitutional Amendment number 1. It'll be the only one on the ballot. Let's build our coast. Let's bring Louisiana back. Thank you, Joe Orgeron.